All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going around that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a $5 in a pot and you can go in and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the park's hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Yeah, moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it the channel and say anyone who can break in, all is free.
Imagine a Scouser say you can break into a theme park for free.
Hi, Jeremy. Hey, it's simple. You've got the Labour Ghost Train.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. 3 minutes past 6, I'm Mike Graham and we are here for the duration. The next 4 hours of glory will be absolutely wonderful. We're spent in the company of you, your good souls, and me, and Theo Usherwood, who's also here to talk through some of the big stories of the morning. We've got some big guests coming up later on today. Richard Tice is joining us from Reform. We're also going to be talking to the new Reform MP from Runcorn. First time she's been on talkTV, I believe. She's going to be telling us exactly what is actually going on at the heart of Westminster. She was sworn in yesterday as an MP, and of course all a bit kind of antediluvian, all a bit Dickensian really, but we'll get into that. I've got for you this morning though some very good news. It's true. The Labour government has finally done something for working people. You know, so Keith Starling, Angela Two Houses Rayner, David Two Lunches Lammy, as we like to call him. We've got old Lucy Rape Gangs Powell, all of the people that you love, the favourites, Rachel Thieves, and of course Jonathan, the fake solicitor Reynolds, who's now running British Steel. They've all finally decided they want to reward people for doing hard work. No more are they going to tax us up to the wazoo. No more are they going to tell us that they're going to have to put national insurance up. No, because now we're going to get no national insurance to pay for 3 years. And we're going to get no national insurance for our bosses to pay for 3 years. Isn't it fantastic? Isn't it marvellous? Isn't it going to be a great big boost to the economy? Well, I asked myself, when does it kick in? And people tell me it kicks in pretty soon. Only problem is, it's working people from another country. It's working people from India. That's right. So working people from India are not going to have to pay any national insurance. Working people from Great Britain, unfortunately, are. So thanks very much indeed to Keith Starling. He's now managed to alienate the final part of the British public that actually aren't very happy with him. Even people from India who have come to live in Britain, who might have been born here to Indian parents, are pretty peed off about the whole thing because they still have to pay national insurance. What is going on? And also the curse of Keir Starling, right? Not only does he do a trade deal with India, literally a couple of hours later, they're now at war with Pakistan. Well done, Sir Keith. Fantastic job. 0344 499 1000. Also, loads of other stories to talk about. We're going to be going on as well about reform, saying that they're no longer going to do any diversity training in all of the councils that they run. The Tories going further down the gurgler even faster than we thought. They've now done a poll which says that only Boris Johnson can save them from going into complete oblivion. The BBC have admitted, of course, that their biased coverage of Prince Harry should have been better. And we'll be talking about the NHS once again, because yesterday we got so many of you getting in touch to say that forget about what they're telling you with Wes Treating saying that the waiting lists are going down. Forget about what they're telling you about more GP appointments being made available. The place is on its knees. It's not working. It's never worked. And it's getting worse by the day. This is Morning Glory. Let us get it on. Oh, and they're going to select a new pope as well, by the way. You might have heard on the news people being asked, what sort of pope do you want? I mean, it's not really a very wide-angle choice, is it? You know, pretty much the Pope will be a Catholic, he'll be a bloke that's not married, he may or may not have some views on abortion. That's the end. That's it. I mean, what do you want? You want a Pope that's a woman? Oh, sorry, you can't have one of them. I'd like a Pope that's not a Catholic. No, you can't have one of those. I'd like a Pope that's married and knows a bit about women. No, sorry. Theo, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you.
I mean, there's not a lot of choices, is there?
No.
Really? What sort of Pope would you like? Well, I guess one that's been in the Catholic Church all his life. I love the idea that, you know, the conclave is going on. They're all going to disappear into a room and not have any contact with the outside world, pretty much like they do every day in Vatican City.
Yes, I mean, it's not... Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of the Catholics here, because I'm one myself, so I'm allowed to.
I'm not a Catholic.
Yeah,
but,
I was raised as a Catholic, so I've got carte blanche to have a go at them, right?
I won't offend the Catholic faith. Look, it's a moment in time. It's a moment in history, and... but yes, I don't think there'll be any great surprises as to who they pick.
It's also the first time we can actually say with absolute and utter truth, we are waiting for the white smoke, literally, to come out the chimney.
It's the only time.
You know, because you sometimes say that as a metaphor, don't you? Yeah, we'll wait and see what the white smoke looks like when it's coming out of
Tories going to pick as their next
leader.
leader.
Exactly. This is
white
actually
smoke.
genuine white smoke coming out of the genuine chimney in the genuine Vatican, where they're selecting a genuine Pope who will be a genuine Catholic.
It's going to be fascinating to see, you know, who is it? I
don't think it's fascinating.
Maybe not. Okay, look,
I mean, you're pushing it a bit hard.
I am pushing it. I'm sorry. It's going to be.
I want that bloke who's called Pizza, whatever his name is, to win it, just because it's a great name. What's his? There's some guy with pizza in his name. Right. Can't remember, but I mean, he just has to win it just because of his name.
So Pope
have a name of pizza after him. Sorry.
Look,
maybe I'm not being referential enough.
You forget I'm not Catholic, so I don't have that carte blanche that you have.
No. But I can see that. But does it matter to the rest of the world, I suppose, is the question. I don't know that it does. I mean, for a lot of Catholics, there's an awful lot of them around the world.
1.3 billion?
Not necessarily here in the UK. And it's very important to them. I don't think it's that important in the scheme of things, is it, really?
I'm not sure it is, but I think... You know, we'll be looking at, you know, global affairs and what the Pope...
Yeah, but that's like saying I'm looking at global affairs.
I'm clutching at straws.
I know. I'm not asking you to defend the Pope here. I'm just saying it's not like he's going to suddenly emerge from the Vatican and go and solve the problems in Gaza or solve the problems in Ukraine, or even now, as Keir Starmer does a trade deal with India, the problems in the skirmish over in Pakistan and India.
No.
He's not going to solve any of that.
The new Pope is not going to do any of those things. Nothing will change.
And he's probably not going to produce the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes or whatever it was into, you know, the feeding of the 5,000. Probably not.
No.
Sorry. Anyway, maybe we should go back to politics, which you know more about. All the papers this morning have got some version of this deal with India. Anger at Indian payoff in biggest deal since Brexit. Labour's tax break that's the Times. The Mail. Labour's tax break for Indian workers. Tories blast Starmer's Delhi trade deal that will make it cheaper to employ foreign staff. I mean, how does Starmer get it so wrong? Yeah, they announce it, and then they don't even mention the fact that this national insurance deal has been done, because basically it means for 3 years, if you employ Indian workers coming in here from India, they will not pay national insurance, and you won't have to pay it either as their boss.
So you go on the UK government website, right? And you find this trade deal, you find the press release, you find all the documents. Is there a dicky bird, a single mention of this benefit when it comes to national insurance? There is not one word about it. Everybody keeps stum. But of course,
do they think nobody's going to find out?
But the Indian government, believe it or not, have their own website, and they've put it up, and they're heralding it as significant financial
one of the
gains.
greatest deals they've ever done.
And who can blame them?
Yeah.
So if you're an Indian company and you want to set up business, or you have a business here, now you're not going to have to pay national insurance contributions on your employees. And if you have employees in India and you bring them into this country to work in this country, to benefit from this country, they're not going to have to pay national insurance, so they're going to get a significant tax
And
rate.
of course, Labour apologists were all over Twitter last night, not officially, but unofficially, all those kind of bot accounts that they have, saying, oh, you're all idiots, we have loads of these reciprocal agreements with loads of countries, including the United States of America. Well, up to a point, that's true, but this is different because this is a new deal, which has been done with a new country, which previously didn't have a reciprocal arrangement. And I'm sorry to say this, but I don't imagine there's that many people from the UK who actually work in India.
No.
I mean, in America, you can see why there would be an advantage to it.
Yeah.
You pay tax either there or you pay here. But in India, there's not hordes of British people being recruited to go and work there, are there?
So in politics, if you're reporting on politics, what I learned quite quickly is that you have to join the dots up.
Yeah.
And so everything knits together, and that's the same if you're a political strategist and if you're a political journalist, right? It all sticks together. And of course, as soon as you see this, what do? You go back and you look at the budget, and what do you find in the budget? That they increased national insurance contributions for British workers to the tune of £25 billion. I was out with Nigel Farage in Scunthorpe, right, walking down the high street, and he plonked himself. I did an interview with, I told you about this last week, right? And I did an interview in a cafe. Forget Nigel Farage for a second. I spoke to the cafe owner. She employs 16 members of staff in a poor area of the country. This is not wealthy people going in there and asking for a cup of tea and
paying 20 quid for a sort of croissant and a latte.
No. These are people who are poor. They are working in the steel.
Working people.
No, they really are working. They are working people. Many of them, I'm sure, listen to this programme, and they are struggling to get by. Do you know how much she's had to put out? How much this national insurance contribution has cost her company? 16 members of staff. It's costing her 500 quid a week.
Right.
That's 23. That's 23 grand a year.
Yeah.
She's having to pay extra in tax.
Right.
And what does that mean for her prices? It means she has to put her prices up. So if she's got working people who are really struggling to get by, coming into her shop to buy Andrea's tea and cakes in I think it's Ashby High Street, and she's having to get working people coming in to buy her tea and cakes. What's she going to have to do with prices? She's going to have to either lay people off, or she's going to have to get them to work, get her the remaining staff to work harder, or she's going to have to put up prices.
And this is why Starmer and Rachel Reeves' mantra that we are not putting up taxes for working people is completely and utterly misleading. Because of course they are. Because if your cup of coffee goes up because you put more national insurance on the people who are providing that coffee, then you as a working person are paying more money. It's effectively a tax that's gone up on what you do.
Because they've never worked in Andrea's tea and cake shop. None of them in that cabinet have actually gone and done that graft and worked in a business, a small business or even a bigger business that is facing a significant tax rise as a result of the changes that they are making. And fine, make those changes if you. I don't agree with them, but then don't go and give a tax break.
But don't try
to the tune of 500 million quid.
And also don't try and deny that that's what you're doing. Don't try and disguise the facts. I mean, Nigel Farage written in the Mail today, Starmer has undercut, sidelined and betrayed British workers, and he's absolutely right. There's no doubt about that. The Daily Telegraph says two-tier tax deal for Indian migrants on the front page. Starmer betrays Britain with agreement that exempts foreign staff from paying national insurance. And of course, again, those who are defending it on the back line of the sort of the Labour apparatchik front, if you like, are saying, oh, well, not only is this something that we do with lots of other countries, but this is only about Indian workers coming in to work for Indian companies in this country. You know as well as I do, that's not how it's going to work. It's going to mean that people who come here from India are going to be able to get jobs working for British companies, and they will be exempt from income tax. They will also, interestingly enough, be allowed to vote over the 3-year period that they're here, because they've been given the right to remain here, albeit a temporary one, which means they can actually vote in an election. So here's Keir Starmer actively inviting people to come and work in this country and vote for him. Yeah. Which I think is pretty cynical, frankly.
And it's just after the way it looks to your viewers, your listeners at home, that you've got the farmers' tax, the £500 million. That's the same amount of the tax break that he's giving to those Indian workers. That's been put on that in effect is being paid for by the farmers.
Yeah.
That's
and Kemi Badenoch said yesterday that the reason she didn't do the deal, the Tories didn't do the deal with India when they were in government, was because they kept demanding this particular tax break, which the Tory government wasn't willing to give them.
And that's
Starmer, of course, was happy to roll over and have his tummy tickled by all these people who are a lot cleverer than him, and they can't believe their luck.
Yeah.
They're literally, I mean, as you say, the Indian government website is absolutely cock-a-hoop. They're going, this is the greatest deal we've ever done with any country ever in the world.
Yeah, and it was a fanfare. I mean, they didn't shy away.
In fact,
from
they were
it.
so happy they went and declared war on Pakistan. Literally hours later, the curse of Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
You know, they suddenly started firing missiles into Pakistan. I mean, which again is unprecedented.
Yeah.
They've always had tension on the border, but there's an actual full-blown war going on now.
And what does that?
And what are we going to do about that?
Exactly. What are we going to do?
We look
about
as
this?
if, because interestingly enough, and I'm saying this to Christian, the producer this morning, you know, yesterday we had the front page story in the Times saying that, you know, they're going to clamp down on visa applications from certain countries. Notably absent from that list of countries was India.
Yes.
They're going to clamp down on Pakistan, on Sri Lanka, and on Nigeria. And if everybody knows that India is a place where they've already clamped down on people applying for business degrees, because they did that under the Tories. They just said, actually, there's so many people applying for these degrees from India, we think most of them are bogus.
Yes.
That seems to have disappeared and been sort of shoved under the carpet.
Yeah, and of course, the government, and you're quite right to point that out, because it was yesterday's announcement, no mention of India within that.
No.
Just those three
Quite
countries
surprising.
they wanted to single out. Actually, what that does, Mike, is it makes it less likely that is going to be, the government is going to be able to enforce that change, because it brings into, it makes it discriminatory.
Yeah, of course.
So you're singling out
Because
nations.
Pakistan are going to go, hang on a minute, you know, what you said, so you've singled us out for, you know, punishment on the visa front. You've now just done a trade deal with India, which allows more Indians to come into Britain. How is that even legal?
And that makes it very, like, you know, you've already got the lawyers lining up, tapping their fingers on the table, thinking we can challenge this, because you're singling out nations. And
how can they be this useless? I'm sorry. How can they be this useless? I'm going to keep asking that question today. In fact, it's question of the day. How can this government be this useless? I mean, we've spent a long time criticising them. A lot of people now agreeing with me that the skids are under Keir Starmer. We're going to be talking to Esther McVeigh later on. She said yesterday his time is up. She put out a post on social media saying, you know, this is the beginning of the end for Keir Starmer. A lot of people think that. He's made another ruck yesterday of the whole pensions, winter fuel allowance thing, where the Downing Street were forced to admit that they're not going to change their policy, that they're going to continue to punish pensioners, which makes them look even worse in the public view.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. You'd have thought that after the local elections, and this is what came up time and time again on the doorstep in those local elections, was the issue of the winter fuel allowance, singularly the most unpopular policy ever. It has to be the most the worst political decision I can remember.
Isn't it?
You save 1.5 billion
for no real gain.
For no, and absolutely, you spell your own, you write out your own political Armageddon. And they had an opportunity yesterday. They'd done the briefing to row back on the policy, and they.
Wes Streeting must be annoyed, because he was seriously hinting that it was going to change policy, wasn't it?
There was one. I listened. I was in on that briefing actually, Mike, and there was one bit which I'm not sure was picked up completely by others, and that was when the Prime Minister's spokesman was pressed specifically on this issue of raising the threshold at which you lose eligibility for the winter fuel allowance. At the moment, it's £11,500. So, if you are less than £11,500, if your pension is less than £11,500, then you get the winter fuel allowance above. And of course, you and I know £11,500 is peanuts. It's not much money at all.
Really isn't.
If you're on 12 grand, then you're poor. Also,
the ludicrous nature of that particular, sort of borderline is that I had to check, because I was asked to do it by my sort of financial advisor, to see what my pension would be in a couple of years' time. And guess what it is? $11,000 a year. So that means I would qualify for the winter fuel allowance, which is ridiculous. Right? I don't need it. But so they're punishing people who actually really need it just because of a line that's drawn across a particular graph.
And the reason they draw that line is they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the money doing the means testing and finding out. They just go, do you have pensioner credit? Yes, you do. Therefore, you don't have to get. Therefore, you can keep the winter fuel allowance. And now, actually, what they're looking at doing is thinking, actually, this is so toxic. We're going to increase the threshold. And when the Prime Minister,
that's what they should have done.
And that's what they should. And when the Prime Minister's spokesman was asked about it yesterday, he did equivocate on that particular issue. But certainly, you're right to say the language coming out of Number simultaneous. They don't want to do it. I think this is, they are writing their own. They're
digging their own grave, literally.
They're handing the keys to Nigel Farage.
Yeah, they really are.
It can't
Dan Hodges,
get any
who, as you know, comes on this show on a regular basis once a week, he's literally gone full circle from defending Keir Starmer to now agreeing with me. He actually put a tweet out last night saying exactly what you just said. They might as well just hand the keys to Nigel Farage now.
Yeah.
It's all over.
It's done. It's just unless they're going to significantly improve their operation and what was interesting.
They're not capable of it.
But what was interesting about it actually, from some polling yesterday, Madeline McCann did a little briefing, and they put out some polling. Actually, all of the new voters that Nigel Farage has won in the past year voted for Labour in last July.
Right.
They're not that keen. They just hate Labour.
Yeah.
They just hate Keir Starmer.
Totally.
And they just want
it
to go better.
Yeah, people have said Starmer didn't win the election in July. The Tories lost it, right?
Yeah.
Literally anybody else who was in charge of Labour would have got in. It was not a vote of confidence for Keir Starmer. Now, as we've seen in Runcorn and in the rest of the local elections across the country last Thursday, people want anybody but Starmer. Yeah. They hate Starmer. He's the most unpopular Prime Minister in the history of Prime Ministers.
And the polling found if they change course, if they can start getting it right, start making sensible decisions, of which this national insurance deal with India is not. Right. But they can get it right and they can turn it round, then those voters will come back to Labour. And
yesterday again, we're streeting out on the rounds, and we'll get back to this in a minute because we've got to take a quick break. Back on the rounds yesterday, talking about how they're going to reduce GP appointments, waiting lists. They're going to get another 8 million appointments made because they're going to expand GP surgeries, actually physically expand them. Yeah. And again, I said, right, let's ask the audience how it's going. And I had literally a complete and utter sort of cavalcade, a tsunami, if you like, of people telling us stories about how they would call the doctor's office and the first appointment they've got is in June, first appointment they've got is in May, they can't go in and see anybody, doctor's surgeries are completely and utterly chock-a-block with people. Also, on top of that, we find out that there's a move now to give migrants priority in NHS operations, whether it's hospitals, whether it's A&Es, whether it's GP surgeries. People are sick to death of being treated as second-class citizens in their own country.
And people just want stuff to work.
They want to get paid more, they want to get taxed less, and they don't want people who have come here from foreign countries getting priority over them in every single aspect of the world in which they live, including housing and including health. It's absolutely disgusting.
What's happened is you've had this conflation now, and Labour are sort of wondering which way to go. Do they follow Nigel Farage, and are they strong on immigration, or do they think about the winter fuel allowance and personal independence payments
and benefits and stuff, and all the rest of it?
And what's happening is that you're thinking, okay, is this an argument to go more to the right, or is it an argument to go more to the left? The problem, this is what Farage has done so well, is that the two are coming together. Yeah. It's one issue. It's not whether to go to the right or to go to the left.
Well, to be fair,
because in Runcorn and Helsby, what came up, and Sarah Pochin, the Reform candidate, was very successful in doing this, is that people are sick and tired. They see losing the winter fuel allowance. That's money that they think they've received going back for half a generation when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. They've lost the winter fuel allowance, pensioners have lost that, and then at the same time they've got I think the figure was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but 750 migrants have been placed into the constituency, and they see that money, and that money that was reserved for their pensions is being paid.
Well, the Sun this morning has got a poll from More in Common UK, and the Executive Director Luke Trill, who we'll be speaking to at some point this week, we believe. A feeling that Britain is broken and fears over immigration drove Reform's local elections breakthrough, according to a poll. In a stark warning for all political parties, 67% of Reform voters say it was the migrant crisis that underpinned their vote. Yeah. And if you read the reasons why all of that stuff is happening and why people believe that they are being treated badly as second-class citizens, they've been listening to this show. I've been saying this for such a long time. It's finally cutting through to the electorate, and the politicians are getting punished, and they better learn pretty fast that if you don't come on this show and explain yourself and do yourself a favour, you're going to be out of a job pretty damn quick. Morning, Mike and Theo, says Margaret. Two-tier Keir has turned into the Grim Reaper. He does a trade deal with India, then it all kicks off. Quite right, Margaret in Birmingham. Good morning, Mike. Will these Indian staff paying no national insurance have free access to hospitals, GPs and dentists? Louise from Ipswich. Yes, they will. Apparently, in the small print, it says that they will be available to be charged, you know, the NHS surcharge. But nobody's going to charge them that, because the NHS doesn't charge anybody that. If you walk in as an Indian citizen saying, I don't pay national insurance, and they don't go, please sign this cheque before you can walk into the hospital, nobody collects it. Nobody in the NHS wants to. You know, we've got the NHS junior doctors now talking about having another strike. It's incredible. Those of you who want to get in touch, and those of you calling in, thank you very much indeed. Lots of you with voice notes as well. Let's get one from Jonathan to kick us off.
Good morning, Mike. This is Jonathan here. Regarding this trade agreement between the UK and India, in the Indian statement, it clearly says that the national insurance exemption will give Indian businesses a significant competitive advantage in the UK. So please, Keir Starmer, could you explain to me, how is this going to actually benefit the British economy and the British worker? I bet he has no answer for that.
As ever, he has no answer for that. Thank you very much indeed, Jonathan. 25 minutes past 6. Me and Theo Usherwood back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory at 6:28. I'm here with Theo Usherwood, and we have got a big show for you this morning, of course. I can tell you that because we've got some fantastic guests. I'm going to tell you about them as we go through the morning. Richard Tice is going to be first up around about 7 o'clock. I'm sure he's going to have plenty to say about this trade deal with India. Let's get a voice note from Phil.
Good morning, Mike. Phil from Nottingham. Walking the dog just before we go and earn some money for Rachel Reeves from national insurance contributions. Now, I'm guessing that this exemption for our Indian friends means that give it a few months and we're just going to have loads of Indians serving us coffee in Costa and petrol in the local Shell garage or on the till at Tesco, as these large corporations think, hang on a minute, it's going to be a little bit cheaper to employ Indians. We can see it coming. Starmer's tone deaf.
He really is. You know, and the idea that, you know, as I say, the apologists, Theo, are saying, oh, it's only Indian companies that can allow people like this to come into the country. Well, yeah, you say that now, but, you know, in what world do you not realise that this kind of, you know, exemption becomes the norm? And what it will mean is that there are plenty of Indian individuals who will decide to set up companies in the UK over the next 3 years so that they can take advantage of it.
Yes, and it puts,
you know,
the other thing is that it puts British companies at a significant disadvantage.
Of course it does.
It means that their prices, let's play that out for a minute, right? Let's say that you have Indian companies, or you have large corporations setting up Indian subsidiaries which then employ Indian workers to work here, and without paying national insurance, and they work in coffee bars, let's say, or stacking shelves in supermarkets or whatever it might be, and then they're not paying national insurance. That's money that isn't going into the exchequer, and if you think
and it's
about
a big saving as well, by the way.
A huge saving, especially given that they've put up national insurance. And of course, you know, the pressure will be on the government to stick with this trade deal. They'll say it's worth so much to the, you know, Whiskey Association, or to the whiskey industry, or to those who make gin. Apparently, the tariffs are being cut from 150% down to 40% over the course of the next 10 years. But you have to think that actually this quite clearly sets up a system where you could see a workaround for many companies who come to this country who are now going to just have that head start. It's like doing an egg and spoon race, right? And you're just saying to one mum and dad in the egg and spoon race, there you go, you have 10 seconds on everybody else.
You can start up there.
You can start there and see who
And also,
wins.
by the way, isn't this going to be the case for every single other country now that wants to do a trade deal with the UK? They'll go, well, we want what India's got.
Yeah.
So give us some, you know, tax-free incentives, give us some national insurance-free incentives, etc. Meanwhile, the criticism over Lucy Powell doesn't go away. Lucy Powell, of course, I read a really interesting piece yesterday in which it said the reason Keir Starmer has not criticised Lucy Powell over this rape gangs dig that she made to Tim Montgomery, where she went, oh, you're just going to blow that dog whistle, are you? You're going to go there making fun, really, of the rape gang story, is because he did exactly the same thing back in January, where he criticised anyone who was trying to raise the issue of a national inquiry by saying, well, you know, you're just jumping on the right-wing bandwagon, you know, a far-right bandwagon. And he's come under fire yet again because Number 10 said the grooming gangs, and you might have been in this briefing, the grooming gangs scandal has been weaponised for political point scoring. But he wouldn't say who it is that's using it for political point scoring, you know?
It's obviously disappointing, this is the Prime Minister's spokesman, for people to engage in this kind of behaviour, but the Prime Minister remained focused on taking necessary action to deliver justice for victims rather than becoming embroiled in political point scoring. That was the full quote from the Prime Minister's spokesman yesterday. Which one is it? This is what I want to know. When Lucy Powell made those comments to Tim Montgomery, the dog whistle, the blow that little trumpet, I think was the phrase that the Leader of the House of Commons made, and then she had to apologise, and then Wes Streeting, who we already annoyed because he then had to go out on the round on Sunday and say, no, this is
everybody
Lucy's
makes mistakes, right?
You know, this was a heated debate.
Right, everybody makes mistakes, he goes.
Yeah, that was it. Everybody makes mistakes, and this is, you know, we all lose our cool. You know, the narrative was we all lose our cool and could say things in the heat of the moment. And now they're saying, well, actually, Number 10 spokesman was saying, well, we kind of agree. We agree with what Lucy Powell said. So I want to know, and I think your listeners probably want to know, was Lucy Powell just saying what Number 10 believes, but just in a way that they didn't like? Or did she actually say the wrong thing? Yeah. Because from that quote from Number 10 yesterday, it just appears that she said it in a way that just, you know, they're not sorry. It's sorry, not sorry.
They're not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Because what she said, and I said this yesterday, was the quiet bit out loud. Yeah. She said what every Labour Cabinet Minister believes. She said what every Labour Cabinet member believes, and many people in the Labour Party believe. This is a toxic issue, and anybody who talks about it is from the far right, and if they are from Reform in any way, shape or form, they should be sort of sneered at, and they should be done over as if they've done something terrible by introducing the conversation into the public square. I mean, that's where the problem lies, and I mean everybody knows, and even Dan Hodges again, you know, who's had a sort of attack of sensibility and has seen the world of common sense and suddenly adopted it, said they're terrified to talk about it. They're terrified of the Muslim vote, they're terrified of losing the Muslim vote, and they're terrified of even going into a conversation which has got anything to do with Muslims raping white girls. They don't want to go there.
And this is a story, this is just to show how deep this rot goes. There's a story, page 6 of the Telegraph. Racism row forces youngest Labour councillor to quit. And this is the story of Daisy Blakemore Creedon. She's 19.
Yeah.
She had to leave Peterborough City Council's Labour group after being allegedly bullied and subjected to anti-Semitic abuse. Why did this happen?
Why?
Because she wanted to have CCTV cameras under the licence agreement installed in every minicab in Peterborough to protect customers.
Wow.
And she was hounded out of the group because she was accused, she and her wider families accused her of, and I'm quoting here, targeting fellow Asian Labour councillors.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. We'll come back to all of that. We'll come back to the India trade deal as well. But a big story on the front page of The Sun this morning, world exclusive is what they're calling it. Maddie, the unseen evidence. It's a fascinating tale, and it's a Sun investigation that's been going on for a long time. It's also the subject of a broadcast programme tonight at 9 p.m. on Channel 4. They basically say they are going to lay bare the haul found in a German police search of the suspect, the chief suspect, in the Madeline McCann disappearance. A suspect known as Christian Bruckner, revealed for the first time today. And it's incredible, isn't it? It includes memory cards containing child kidnap stories, kids' clothes, toys and guns. There's also all sorts of stuff. They've got the full story over 4 pages inside. He talks about getting his hands on a very small blonde girl. I'm in paradise. He talks about that in a fantasy that he's written down. The Sun have spent about a year on this story, and this is the culmination. Yeah,
it's an incredible investigation, and I think this kind of journalism is very, very difficult to do.
It is
painstaking work, but Rob Patterson has gone away and spent.
He's going to be on the show later, by the way.
Months and months and months on it, and it's an incredible investigation as to. It's going to be broadcast on Channel 4, and it reveals how German police uncovered the twisted stories in email accounts traced to the convicted paedophile and rapist Bruckner, who is 48 years old. They believe some were written around 2010, 3 years after Madeline, of course, vanished from Praia da Luz in Portugal. And I know some of your listeners might not necessarily, some of your younger listeners.
It's a long time ago.
It's a long time ago. This was back in 2007. I mean, this was a case that, it was global news, worldwide news for weeks.
Because she would be well into her 20s now, wouldn't she? I suppose.
So she'd be well into her mid-20s by now. She was 4 years old. Is that
4
right?
or 5, I think,
when she went missing in 2007. So that puts her at 29 years old. 29 years old now. 24 years old. Sorry. So this is. I mean, it's. To go into this kind of detail, it runs. They've got creepy photographs of Bruckner, key locations of interest for Madeline investigators. They've gone into the hard drives and the laptops. It's taken a huge amount of investigative work. And you said you got Rob on later.
Yeah, we're going to be speaking to him about how he managed to get all of this stuff, incredible evidence, including a sort of haul of chemicals that were found in Bruckner's vehicle, a metal suitcase discovered during the police search containing chilling photographs of young girls, a hard drive on his laptop which had images abandoned in his lair in Germany, and just a very creepy character all round. And they've also got Hazel Behan, who was raped and tortured in 2004 in Praia da Rocha in Portugal, 20 miles from Praia da Luz, where Maddie disappeared. So it's a fascinating story.
And I hope it might bring also, Mike, some, for Kate and Jerry McCann, who've never. Madeline was never found. I hope it might, you'd hope it might bring some closure. That the Sun has gone away. They've done this level of investigation, and you've got to look at it and you've got to say, well, actually now, the case is Madeline's body's never been recovered, but you would think that the case has been solved from looking at this. That the answers there's so much detail in this report and this investigation that you would think that actually now they do have some of the answers thanks to the Sun newspaper.
Indeed. We'll be doing more on that a little bit later on in the show. Also, Sarah Pochin is going to be here as well, the first Reform female MP who was sworn in yesterday. Let's get a voice note from Damon.
Morning, Mike. Theo, Damon from Wigan. I am not surprised every day when I watch your show, Mike, which is a fantastic show. I am not surprised every day to hear stories like this. This morning with Indian workers now being exempt from national insurance. This government is intent on destroying Britain. It is intent on making the British workers and the British people suffer at every chance they get. And it is now coming where they are segregating workers, segregating parts of the country for their own gain. They've got no idea what they're doing. They're absolutely out of their depth. I cannot believe a government is so useless at doing the job, and something seriously has to be done.
It is hard to believe how useless they actually are. And this is a good point from Dave. He says, morning, Mike. I see Reynolds has signed a trade deal with India, so how many visas will be available to them for that? Says David Aberdeen. So that is in addition to this deal with Indian companies being allowed to start up in Britain and have no national insurance to be paid. What will also happen is that more visas will be issued for work visas for Indian employees, for British companies, and also more student visas, no doubt, as well. Damien in Nottingham says, morning, Mike. Looking forward to another great show as normal. Just a quick one. Listening to the news overnight that India struck Pakistan. There's going to be a new full-blown war in that region. Probably now the clock is ticking, just waiting for those asylum claims to come in from everyone in Pakistan and India on a work visa to claim they can't return home because of war. God help us. Well, there's all that. Coming up, we're going to talk about the BBC and Prince Harry. We'll talk about the NHS, of course, as well, still facing ridiculous nonsense coming out of the propaganda machine of Wes Streeting's office. And also, we'll talk about what is going on with tartar sauce, which apparently has had a revamp and they've renamed it. They've renamed it because apparently nobody knows what it is. 6:41.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. This, of course, is the home of common sense. I'm Mike Graham. Theo Usherwood is here with us as well. Some lovely pictures in the papers this morning, Theo, of the poppies being, those porcelain poppies being replaced down in Tower of London, just across the river from where we're sitting right now. And Camilla was there, obviously looking at all of that on a tour with London Constable General Gordon Messenger, a great name. But in addition to that, on the same page, they've got another miscreant member of the royal family, former member, Harry, of course, and the BBC admitting that when they interviewed him basically last Friday, they were actually biased in the way that they did it.
Yes, so firstly, Prince Harry makes that claim in the BBC interview last Friday after a court ruled again that he wasn't entitled to protection when he had visited this country. Then they did an interview, the BBC...
Even though he gets it every time he does visit this country.
Then the BBC's Radio 4 Today programme did Sun put it, and this is neatly put it, one-sided chat with an ex-close protection officer called Richard H. And he was interviewed, as a sort of neutral to get a broader understanding of security concerns. But then he repeated the claim that it was an establishment stitch-up, and that just didn't go challenged. Nobody said, hang on a moment, well, stop, hold up. What's your justification for saying that? Why do you feel that you can say that? And now the BBC has admitted that there's been a lapse in standards as a result, and it's come clean that it didn't meet its own standards.
I love their apology as well, because they say that it didn't meet our usually very high standards. I mean, this is an organisation which has been criticised so much in the past that they don't have really any high standards to defend anymore, do they? I mean, they allowed this guy, Mr. H, to say that it was an establishment stitch-up, and he agreed with what Prince Harry said. But this is the same, and Kinsey Schofield pointed this out on Jeremy Carl's show last night, this is the same BBC which actually allowed Martin Bashir to make up a load of stories, to forge documents that would convince Harry's mother that she should ditch her security because they were snitching on her to Prince Charles at the time. They have no leg to stand on in terms of their sort of honour, shall we say?
It keeps happening. We keep on happening. This is, they allowed
They're
this
dreadful.
13-year-old son of a Hamas official to narrate one of its documentaries. It keeps on happening, and they hold themselves up to be the gold standard. And yet you have time and time again, you have lapses like this.
Exactly. Quick one on driving trains, because whenever there's a train driver strike, we always get told by the people on social media who are train drivers, it's a very difficult job, you couldn't do it. Why don't you come down and see if you could pass the test, you fat git, and all this kind of thing. It's usually abuse that I get, of course. I always suggest that I could probably drive a train with probably not that much training. What they couldn't do is what I do. But that's another story. Now we're being told 18-year-olds can do it.
Yes, so there's a shortage of train drivers. So the Department of Transport is going to
incredibly
lower the age down from 20 to 18, and of course the complaint from the train drivers union and of course from customers is that drivers are having to work overtime. So they're going to have to cut the age in order to be able to employ more drivers. I have to say, I know a few teenagers. I don't know if I'd want to get on a train and the voice come over the tunnel. Your next stop is going to be Woking,
right?
And it's some you look down you peer through the glass at the end of the carriage, some spotty 18-year-old there with his hands on the control.
I think you're being very ageist there.
Is that ageist?
I think so. I mean, I think it depends on the 18-year-old, doesn't it? I take your point.
Oh, come on,
I
Mike.
take your point.
Come on, you can't be 18 and driving a train.
No,
you're responsible
you drive a car.
Yes, but when a train, you're responsible for imagine you're doing the commuter service.
Yeah.
And I just swapped my PlayStation out this morning. I'll go and drive a train with 250 commuters in under your responsibility.
Yeah.
Would you want to fly a plane with an 18-year-old?
I mean, again, I would have to say it depends on the 18-year-old. If they pass the test and they learn how to do it, I'm not that bothered.
I think I'd get off.
Really?
Yeah, I'd go back. I'd just go and sit. I'd go and sit in the bar for a.
Well, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, we'll put it out to the general public. Would you mind an 18-year-old driving a train? I mean, at this point, I think most people trying to get a train would be just happy if there was a train. I mean, maybe what we need is a driverless train, and then you get rid of all of the
I do a driverless train. I love.
So you'd rather have a driverless train than an 18-year-old?
Yeah, I love the Docklands Light Railway near here.
Okay.
I'm happy to.
I love the idea that Keir Starmer thinks he's driving it. That's one of the great quotes of all time, and we'll come back to that. 6:48. This talk.
For the peoples of Europe, the war was over.
Yep.
6 long years, which had seen 35 to 50 million people killed, including 350,000 British armed forces. It liberated, of course, the Channel Islands, only part of the British Isles to be occupied by the Nazis. And it meant for millions of people at home, they'd be reunited with their fathers, their brothers, their sons. And, of course, also for so many people in the country, it was a moment when finally they realised no more would Britain be devastated by aerial bombardment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. 6:51. Theo Usherwood is here. We're going to talk to Philip Ingram, MBE, in a moment, former senior military intelligence officer. The news that broke overnight is that basically 11 people have been killed, including 2 children, after India launched airstrikes on Pakistan with 5 jets shot down in a huge escalation. Both states are nuclear powers, and perhaps more significantly, and this is from a tweet from Lance Foreman last night, there are 1.6 million Pakistanis living in the UK and 1.9 million Indians. A war has just broken out between India and Pakistan. Let's hope that those living in Britain do not allow it to spread over here. We've already seen quite a few kind of engagements going on between the two communities, particularly in parts of the country like Leicester, where there's been constant fights going on for years. But let's get a word with Philip Ingram and see what's going on. Philip, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I mean, we're told this morning that both of these states are nuclear powers, so it's nothing to be sniffed at, this conflict. What's it all about?
It's not. There have been tensions over the years. This particular event started after a terrorist attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, where 26 tourists were killed. And the group that carried out the attack have been accused of being an offshoot of Pakistan's inter-service intelligence agency, and that's why India has accused Pakistan of being behind it. Immediately after that, India started to bring in punitive measures aimed at Pakistan. They diverted water from rivers that were flowing from India into Pakistan, right, which had a massive impact, and they expelled diplomats and removed visas for Pakistanis to be in India. And then last night we saw what the Indians describe as Operation Sindoor being launched against 9 sites, the Indians say, to try and attack these terrorists that were linked to Pakistan's intelligence.
And I mean, obviously quite an important conflict for Britain, not least because of the numbers of Pakistanis and Indians living here, and also in the context of the fact that only yesterday the government said they were going to clamp down on Pakistanis coming to this country on work visas and student visas, but India has been given a sort of open door policy and allowed to come here willy-nilly, so that might have some effects as well.
I think it'll have huge effects. The timing of this couldn't have been worse for Keir Starmer's trade deal with India, because the detail of it didn't come out really in Keir Starmer's statements and are coming out in the papers today. The tax breaks that have been given to Indian workers and companies employing them are interesting to say the least. And there are large numbers, as you highlighted, of Indians and Pakistanis living in the UK, so tensions in those communities are likely to grow.
Yes, well, we'll keep an eye on it. Philip, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. We've got to cut you short there, I'm afraid. Philip Ingram, MBE, former senior military intelligence officer. Theo Usherwood is here. I mean, it tells you that Keir Starmer is the unluckiest Prime Minister, as well as being the most useless, the unluckiest Prime Minister of all time. Surely he would have had intelligence briefings telling him that, that this is basically on the horizon. This war in Pakistan, between Pakistan and India, could really be a problem.
Yes, but I think probably what was more in the front of Number 10's mind is to try and change the conversation this week at the beginning of as Parliament came back after the bank holiday weekend, when it came to the local elections, those disastrous set of local elections results. Of course, when you get the detail in the Indian press release about this deal when it comes to
But the good news
insurance,
is not so good news, is it?
Suddenly it's like it only rams home the point about why people chose to vote for reform on Thursday and the disastrous set of results for Labour as well as the Tories. We haven't mentioned the Tories a huge amount, but Kemi Badenoch, rightly, this was a line in the sand she wasn't prepared to cross when she was at the Department for Business in Rishi Sunak's government, and you would think that she is on a very strong wicket ahead of Prime Minister's questions today. You would think that she should, with her 6 questions, be able to nail Keir Starmer, and she's under a huge amount of pressure because there are noises off within the Conservative Party now. I've had the text from Tory strategists.
There's a plot, isn't there? To get rid of her.
It can't go on.
No.
It can't go on. The question is, and there's a poll which was, and I was reporting on it yesterday, which found that only Boris Johnson, and this is when they went through, the pollsters went through all of the different scenarios of who could take over from Kemi Badenoch, who could take over from Kemi Badenoch, and the only person who scores highly against, and actually wins against Farage, is Boris Johnson. Yeah. It's too soon for Boris Johnson right now. He doesn't want to he's got no intention. I was back and forth with somebody who actually knows him well. But he could
sweep in, couldn't he, before the next election?
Exactly. So then the question that the Conservatives have to grapple with is actually, if Boris Johnson is the only person who can defeat Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson has to be the answer in 2028, right? They have to go to him and pick him. Do you then, this is what they've got to work out, is do they try and stem the bleeding with replacing Kemi Badenoch with somebody else? The only person who's really shown to have any fight is Robert Jenrick.
It's Jenrick, yeah.
So bring him in, and then but does he want to come in 4 years out and then work all the way
He may not want to.
Just before the general election, only to be usurped by Boris Johnson?
Yeah, he may not want to. Just a couple of quick other stories before we end the hour. Labour's tough sanctions against criminals who refuse to attend their sentencing in court were ridiculed last night as the proposed punishments ought to be active for only 3 weeks. This is another mirror, as a sort of, shall we say, mirrored policy by the Labour Party, Labour government, who bring something in to make it look as if they're being tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime, etc. And this is about all the people who don't turn up for their sentencing hearing when they've been found guilty. But it's it's got no teeth.
You just sit it out, wouldn't you, if you're one of these, So basically, we've had this huge, it's repeatedly happened now, hasn't it, where you've had these horrendous crimes. Families of the loved ones who've been murdered have turned up in court to have their moment to see the person who's been found guilty. The person who's
it should be compulsory,
their daughter or their wife or whoever, their killer, sentenced. And the individual has decided not to turn up to court, and they're thinking of ways to try and compel them. And one of the ideas is, solitary confinement. Good. Yeah, you'd think good. Yeah. But 3 weeks, is that going to do it? And they're just going to sit there. Lose your television or be denied extra gym sessions. Yeah, I think that'd be a bare minimum. Yeah. But it's not going to work if you're only doing it for 6 weeks, which is the proposal here. I think, the government, it's really important, I think, for the victims when and I've been in courts where, as a cub reporter going back, 15 years now, 20 years, where victims of, those who have lost loved ones are in court to see, and this, I remember one case. They would turn up, and it was a moment.
It wasn't a choice, was it?
It wasn't a choice. They'd turn up, they'd sit it out, and they'd do it. And there was none of this like, we're just going to sit in holding cells downstairs. They sat there, and it was a moment for those who had lost their loved ones to get some retribution, to see them, the person who murdered their daughter or son or whoever, go down to prison, to see the expression on their face, to hear them read the victim impact statement, and there's the penalties. I'd do. I'm not going to be appointed a judge anytime soon. I just double it.
Yeah,
wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
so
just
you're
say you get no parole, you get no chance of getting out. You just double it. A couple of quick ones. We've literally got 30 seconds. England faces drought. It says on the front page of the Guardian as reservoir levels fall. Here we are. We're not even in the summer properly yet. It's in May, and they're also saying that basically reservoir water levels are dwindling all over the place. It's going to be a dry summer apparently. Next we'll be getting wildfire. And then finally, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling busy, if you're feeling like the world is getting you down, go and look at some art or look at something beautiful. Apparently that will help you.
This is on the front page of the Times. Yeah. Don't look at your phone. Go and look at something like, go to an art gallery, and then you'll feel much better.
Or go and look at, the White Cliffs of Dover or something, and you can do a double act with somebody from Reform. Anyway, listen, Richard Tice is here talking about somebody from Reform. This is Morning Glory. Theo Usherwood, thank you very much indeed. We've got loads to do. It's all coming up.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 7. The sun is up, the sky is not quite blue, but, it's looking great out there. If only we had a decent government that could actually run things, we could actually be looking forward to a spectacular summer and a wonderful year. Instead of which, we've got The Guardian telling us we're going to run out of water pretty much in the next 2 weeks. The reservoir levels are apparently dropping. There'll be wildfires everywhere. There's a war going on between India and Pakistan. No connection whatsoever to the fact that Keir Starmer and the kiss of death from the Labour government has finally started something after he gave a trade deal to India, which apparently means that if you come from India, you'll be able to come and work in this country, not pay any national insurance. You'll be able to start a company in this country and not pay any national insurance. And you'll be able to do whatever you want, basically. Get as many visas as you want, come and study for as long as you want. As long as you're from India, that's great. I said this morning, finally, Keir Starmer's done something for working people. Unfortunately, he's done it for the working people of India rather than the working people of Great Britain. Richard Tice is here. Very good morning to you. Deputy Leader of Reform, of course, fresh from the massive victory and the massive council elections gains that were made. 677 councillors, new ones from a standing start, by the way. 2 new mayors, a new MP. We're also going to be talking to Sarah Pochin later on in the show. First female MP for Reform, number 5 MP on the list. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. We're going to be getting into all of that. Plus, we'll continue our conversations about the NHS and how absolutely useless they are, and how Wes Streeting's claims that they're going to get rid of another 8 million sort of commitments to patients' appointments. It's not going to happen. It's simply not happening. We keep hearing from people in our constituency here at Talk who tell us that they still can't get an appointment. People ring up the doctor and they say, yeah, how about July? How does that sound for you? Or maybe June. Or possibly we could give you something in May if it's an emergency. But it's absolutely hopeless, absolutely dreadful. This, of course, is Morning Glory. Let us get it on. And a new poll out this morning, by the way, says that people believe that immigration is the biggest issue in this country and that Britain is broken. Very much the saga that we've been saying for many, many months and years. Very much the saga that Richard, you and Reform have been saying as well. Very good morning.
Absolutely, very good morning to you. And the results last Thursday night reinforce that poll, because what we were hearing on the doors and on the streets up and down the country was that actually people were raging, literally raging with fury about uncontrolled legal and illegal immigration, and that by far and away trumped issues around potholes, around bins and the like. And so we had an outstanding result yesterday. It was, and what was incredible was how the Tory councillors who'd been councillors for 20, 25 years just arrogantly assumed that it's a sinecure for life. I mean, it was like they were going to a funeral procession. They didn't actually realise, conveniently forgetting that, of course, Nigel Farage did actually write to them all a few months back and say, we're coming for you, we're going to win hundreds of seats, you've got one chance to realise. But anyway, look, we've secured a great result, and now it's onwards and upwards. We're going to run these councils, and we're going to identify the waste, the incompetence, and we're going to do that very quickly. Yeah. Well, I wrote a piece, 2 weeks before the election in the Telegraph saying, this is going to be a wipeout for Labour. It was also a wipeout for the Tories, by the way, as well. They should have just, the councillors and the government should have just read that. I've also written a piece this week in which I'm asking the question whether Reform in the new guise of running 10 different councils is going to take on the government, because not only have we now got the ridiculous situation of hotels being occupied by asylum seekers, but we've now got private individual landlords being sought by Serco and by other contractors for the government to take up basically, private residential housing in streets which are not really fitted out for it. And we've found already this week, we've been getting calls from people saying, I've got a notice of eviction from my landlord, he's taken a better deal from the government. We've had landlords saying, we've had calls from these third parties who are talking about offering 1,500 quid for £1,000 a month flat. I mean, it's extraordinary what's going on. It is extraordinary. Will you be able to stop it? We will be using every possible lever and mechanism that we can in order to try and reduce this activity, stop this activity. So on migration, for example, as Zia Youssef said over the weekend, we'll be looking at all regulations and actually just naming and shaming people, because this is a crisis, and it's frankly outrageous that British citizens are being kicked out of British housing in favour of illegal migrants. And this expression last week, I mean, imagine if, no one's really done the analysis, what if all of the elections had gone ahead last week, as opposed to 5.5 million people having their vote denied? How many councils would we have won then? I know. How much more funny enough, of an explosive landslide would this have been? Well, when Nigel Farage was on with us, you came on very kindly first last Friday morning. We had Nigel on as well. And I said to him, this would have been an even bigger wipeout if, in fact, because many of those places where people weren't allowed to vote were Labour holds, weren't they? Absolutely right. So, yes, our councils will be doing whatever they can. And in areas like Lincolnshire, of course, where I'm an MP, we've got the mayoralty, we've now controlled the council, and I'm a significant, local MP. And so on immigration, we'll be doing whatever we can. And likewise, on net zero, I made clear at the weekend that we will use every lever and we will put in place any blockage, any hurdle, any obstruction, using judicial reviews, health and safety, whatever. I'm making a very clear statement. anybody thinking of investing or developing solar farms, dangerous battery storage things, or to National Grid, who I've met and told very clearly, don't you think of building pylons in the county of Lincolnshire and elsewhere, because we will come after you, and it's going to cost you money. So maybe take your money and your daft ideas elsewhere. Brilliant. This is literally war. We will wage war on Ed Miliband. We will wage war on Number 10, on this net zero madness and this immigration madness. And it may be uncomfortable, it may be difficult. We will succeed in some areas, we might not succeed in others, but my goodness me, we will try.
And you've also got a mandate to do it. You know, you've got a massive mandate.
We've got an electoral mandate to do it.
Which Ed Miliband doesn't have, because what they've done, of course, in national government is to say, oh, we would like to hit these net zero targets. They haven't said this will be the result of us wanting to do that. We'll be putting pylons up all over the place.
They have no mandate to cover Lincolnshire with 30 to 40,000 acres of solar panels and these dangerous battery storage units. So it's going to be, well, it's going to be interesting. Let's put it like that. It's going to
be very interesting, and I think an awful lot of people will be cheering you on from the rafters, and I'll be one of them, by the way, which I don't mind admitting. You know, I'm sorry if that makes you think that I'm not as unbiased as I should be. It's not about that. It's about common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about the big story this morning, and this ridiculous trade deal that Keir Starmer has done with India, which apparently makes it better. I said this morning he's done a great deal for working people, but unfortunately it's the working people of India that he's done a deal for.
Look, as a Brexiteer, we want sensible trade deals, but this has turned out, as we feared, not to be a fair and equitable trade deal, because what disgracefully the government didn't mention in their statement in the House of Commons yesterday was anything to do with the movement of people. And it turns out that Indian workers coming to work in the UK won't have to pay any national insurance on the employer, nor will the employer. So guess what? If an employer in the UK can suddenly employ an Indian worker coming over and save themselves 15% national insurance, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out what some employers are going to do. Here's what's really going to happen. You're going to have unscrupulous agencies set up by Indian entrepreneurs claiming to have an office in Delhi, claiming to have an office somewhere like Peterborough or somewhere else in the UK, and they will say that they've got all these employees in India, and they're coming to work for placements in the UK. There is the greatest scam is about to be imposed on the UK.
They'll start up some kind of umbrella organisation, won't they?
They'll create an umbrella agency worker, and they'll say, I'm employing all these people over there, and now I'm employing them here in the UK to second them to other firms. It will result in tens and tens and tens of thousands of low-skilled Indian workers coming to the UK, suddenly claiming all sorts of extra costs and burdens on the UK system, on housing, on healthcare, and the like.
Of course.
And then they'll want dependents, and then after 3 years, because supposedly there is a 3-year cap on this, there'll be a reason to extend it.
We know very well 40,000 of people who have been claiming asylum in the last year were all people from places like India and Pakistan, where basically their visas had run out, and instead of going home, instead of being deported, they're now on the asylum bandwagon, and they'll probably be getting a free house somewhere in Britain because they were awaiting their asylum appeal. And I thought it was really interesting yesterday that the government came out with this crackdown on issuing those visas now, but only to 3 countries, Nigeria, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, not India.
And of course,
how does that work?
Well, we know exactly how that works because they've been obviously working on this trade deal, and we all fear that there would be a great betrayal of British workers. And the impact of this is, at every level, it's just humongous, because it will suppress the wages of British workers. It will drive up rents for housing, it'll drive up pressure on public services, and it's just not what people vote for.
But it's like Jonathan Reynolds, who's a complete idiot, by the way, pretended to be a solicitor for 10 years. He's now in charge of British Steel. He was involved in these negotiations with India. It's almost as though they've never actually worked in a proper company or been in the real world. I mean, everybody knows how commerce works. Everybody knows how, you know, unscrupulous people take advantage of situations to create a scam. But these idiots don't seem to have a clue.
I mean, this is the point. They sort of naively think that it's just a few sort of high qualified people between the sort of engineers working for Tata in India and the same here in the UK. That's not, I mean, that is a complete irrelevance. This is a scammers and a dodgy dealers charter, manana to making huge sums of money, and I'm truly appalled, and all of your listeners and viewers should be appalled. That's what's going to go on.
Yeah.
And by the time the Home Office admit it and realise it, it will be too late.
It will be too late. And the Indian government's reaction to the deal is what gives it all away. They're saying it's basically the greatest deal they've ever done. They can't believe how they've got away with it. Even Kerry Badenoch, who's not exactly the world's greatest politician, turned this deal down when she was in government because she said they wanted to press ahead with a free national insurance scheme where they wouldn't have to pay anything. And they weren't, even the Tories weren't willing to accept that.
Well, it was interesting that Dan Hodges, he tweeted overnight, they might as well give the keys at number 10 to Nigel now because...
Well, I've groomed Dan Hodges for a year, as you well know. He's now come over to the other side. I mean, he's basically ready for joining Reform next week. You know, he'll be a candidate at the next election for you.
I mean, look, the whole thing is an outrage, and it's the devious way that they didn't refer to it. And we will make it very clear, and we will keep a close eye. But the damage that would be done in the interim, in terms of what I've just been talking about, is just, it's unconscionable. Absolutely unconscionable.
Absolutely right. Let's take another issue, which is an issue, a massive issue for an awful lot of people watching this show. The arrests of the Iranian terrorists over the weekend, many of them supposedly tied very closely to the Iranian regime. You asked a question in the House of Commons yesterday. I think we've got it.
In serious incidences involving terror and these sorts of incidents, it would be better to put out more information sooner in order to prevent misinformation. And in order to prevent misinformation, surely the Minister should tell us and the British people who want to know how long have these Iranian nationals been in this country and what is their immigration status?
Let me say to the Honourable Member that that's precisely why I made the point to the Shadow Minister about the importance of transparency. It's precisely why the government have proactively brought forward a statement to the House today in order to give members the opportunity to ask questions. Earlier on, I gave a commitment that the Home Secretary will come and update the House when we are operationally able to do so. I know that the Honourable Member understands the importance of not cutting across a live police terrorism operation.
That is, of course, Home Office Minister Dan Jarvis talking absolute and utter cobblers.
Well, I do understand the importance of not influencing a live investigation, but understanding how long someone's been in this country or what is their immigration in no way can be seen to prejudice a live investigation. Now, for listeners' clarity, of course, I don't get the right of reply to stand up and sort of
argue the case.
Re-argue the case. That's how the procedure works in the House of Commons. So, you know, he sort of brushes me off. But I fear, and I think the British people can sense in their gut, that something's not right here. And I think it's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. He was banging on about the brilliance of transparency, the brilliance of Jonathan Hall KC. Well, fine, in which case, but it's the same brilliant Jonathan Hall that says you've got to get the information out there. And we need to know, have these Iranian nationals just rocked up? And if so,
did they fly in? Did they come in through Heathrow?
And what's their immigration status? Or have they been here plotting for many, many years? And we need to ask these questions, and we, frankly, a bit like the statement about that the government is not going to issue visas to people from certain nations. Well, you know, actually, how many Iranian nationals are here, and what sort of concerns have they got on a broader piece?
Because Iran is one of the countries we're told we can't send anybody back to. We seem to get, you know, we do Migrant of the Day here. There's quite a lot of Iranians who can't be sent back to Iran because apparently they might be done some kind of harm. But, you know, if they've come over on small boats, we need to know that.
Absolutely.
If they've been put in a hotel for asylum seekers, we need to know that. They're living apparently in Stockport, Swindon and Manchester in houses. Have they been given those houses? They're all... And I've been doing this long enough, Richard, and I said this during the Southport investigations. You know, I know plenty about contempt of court laws, and there is no chance of you getting that piece of information which would in any way prejudice a police investigation, because you can't do that anyway. It's a court of law that you can prejudice. You can't prejudice a police investigation. It's absolutely BS.
And therefore, you have to conclude that the information is inconvenient to the authorities, and you have to conclude that once again we are staring in the face of a cover-up. A cover-up, and I think people need to realise what is going on here. And it is completely unacceptable to just continue to use this line about contempt of court.
Yeah.
And, you know, the government did then say that they would relook at these contempt of court proceedings.
Yes.
Well, maybe let's do that on an emergency basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, because the truth is, if any of these 8 nationals have possibly come across on small boats or come here through a different illegal route, then I think quite rightly the British people will be even more furious and say, for heaven's sake, this is a national emergency. We need to derogate ourselves from the ECHR. We need to declare that emergency, derogate ourselves from the United Nations 1951 Convention, which we are entitled to do, by the way, because this is a clear and present danger to the safety of British citizens. And in particular, there are suggestions that this may well be targeting members, friends in the Jewish community. We don't know. But again, that's a reason why actually we've got to get on with it. So this is incredibly serious.
Absolutely. People legitimately asking questions to me. Why are these people here? What are they doing here? And how many more of them are there? We'll come back to that another time. We haven't got a lot of time left. I want to ask you a reaction to another sort of piece of fallout, I suppose, from last Thursday. Kemi Badenoch now very much on the ropes in the Tory party, people saying that she may not last until the summer. Apparently the only leader who the Tories want back, who could possibly challenge Nigel Farage for Downing Street and the position of Prime Minister of this country, is good old Boris Johnson.
I mean, seriously, look, no, Kemi's doing a brilliant job. Please don't disturb her. She's doing really, really well. If Boris came back, I mean, he is not popular on the doors.
Yeah.
I knock on a lot of doors. I speak to a lot of people, and you know, people gave Boris Johnson, they lent him their vote, their trust, their good faith, and he betrayed them at every level. He betrayed them on mass immigration. He betrayed them on net stupid zero. And he will continue to betray them again. So if they think that that's the answer, then it just shows how completely, vacuously, ludicrously out of touch some people in the Tory party are. Look, it's basically game over for them. That's the reality.
Look good. It doesn't look good. I mean, on the projection that was done, which we played out, I think, on Friday, if there was a national election, based upon what happened on Thursday of last week, the Tories would end up with 7 seats in Parliament. 7.
As many as that?
7. I mean, that's not a good day. Final question. Reform councillors are apparently not going to be taking any training on diversity matters or indeed net zero. What are they going to spend their time doing? Because, you know, how are you going to fill their time?
Well, we're told in Leicestershire, apparently, there's over a dozen net zero officers, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
But in Lincolnshire, it appears, they claim that there's no DEI people, but that's because actually they've rebadged them and renamed them,
they give them different
other
names.
things in order to cover up. So look, all of this our good people will dig into and expose, and we'll see where we get to. Some of it will identify quickly, some will take a bit longer, but it won't be through lack of trying.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting time. Fascinating. Richard Tice, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK. It makes you feel good to be alive, doesn't it? That there's another political force in this country who are not just going to say, we're going to be terribly transparent, but I'm afraid we can't tell you anything at all. It's 22 minutes past 7. This is Talk.
Starmer has 2 ways out. Number 1 is he likes a windfall tax on successful companies. He needs to fine Deliveroo £2 billion. for enabling illegal immigrants to work in the UK. He needs to do it this week. And the second thing he needs to do is to act like a leader and start actually moving people around. He needs to move Miliband on, Rayner on, and he needs to do it this week.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:24. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10, of course. Kenny from Edinburgh says, "Hi, Mike. Those criminals that refuse to attend sentencing should, if needs be made to wear a muzzle, handcuffs and leg irons and tied to the dock chair if that is what it takes. I've had a gutful of victims' families being disrespected like this, and if this is draconian, then so what? Human rights should be cancelled for people that do inhumane things." I couldn't agree more with that, Kenny. I've actually said that in the past because some of the reasons given for not dragging these scumbags out of the cells and bringing them up to face the actual the full force of the terrible things that they've done has been, oh, well, they might make a fuss, they might make a noise, they might start shouting. Well, put a gag on them, bring them up like Hannibal Lecter on one of those, luggage trolleys and just put them in a straitjacket and stick a mask over them so they can't make any noise, but make them listen and make them watch and make them see and bear witness to what it is that they've done and the damage that they've caused. Lisa in Birmingham says, Boris Johnson will be back. He said when he left Downing Street, hasta la vista, baby, which means I'll be back. Boris, always a politician. Well, I think he would only come back if he really, really thought that he could win. And I'm not sure that he can. But I'll take your views on all of that. Let's talk to Councillor Timothy Huxtable, Shadow Cabinet Member for Highways and the Environment at Birmingham City Council. We're going to talk to him about the bin crisis, which is, of course, still going on, by the way. But let me ask you first, Timothy, would you welcome Boris Johnson coming back as the leader of the Tory party?
He's not an MP at the moment, Mike. So
yeah, you're not going to get away with that one, I'm afraid. That's the that's the old yeah. Just to brush that one away. No, I know he's not an MP at the moment. Would you welcome him coming back as leader?
Not at the moment.
Before the next election.
Let him get elected, and then let him put himself forward. We in the Conservative Party, as members, we choose the next leader. Let him put himself forward for leadership after he becomes an MP, and we've had that discussion there.
Right, OK. Did you think he was a good Prime Minister?
Yes, but then, like all humans, he was flawed.
OK. Aren't we all? What's going on in Birmingham? Why have you not sorted out the bins crisis yet? I mean, you collectively, not you personally.
Yes. No white smoke from Birmingham at the moment, I'm afraid. And it's because we've got an incompetent...
This is not a black smoke of people burning the rubbish, right?
Well, absolutely. We're going to sort out the next Pope, I fear, before we get a resolution to the bin strike in Birmingham. And, of course, it's getting worse because the City Council are now saying, having said they're downgrading the waste recycling collection officer role, they're now going to downgrade the bin driver's role.
Right.
So... there are now bin drivers not turning up for work. So if there's no one to drive the lorry, because you need a specific licence to drive bin lorries, the rubbish, again, isn't getting collected. I can only judge for myself and for my ward, but there are pockets of my ward which didn't get a collection last week, and my road was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, the strange thing about it is that I keep hearing reports that some parts of the city are having their bins collected, but a lot of parts aren't. Is that who's deciding on which bits of the city get the delivery, get the sort of the bin lorries, and who doesn't?
Well, I'm not part of the operational, obviously being the opposition, but I'm assuming If the driver for that particular round turns up, that round gets done. If the driver doesn't, it just doesn't get done because there's no one authorised to drive the vehicle.
So, I mean, it must be pretty awful now. I mean, you had the hot weather last week. It's calmed down a bit now. It's a bit cooler, luckily. But, I mean, it must be really, really, really now a massive health hazard. Why is... I mean, it's almost like you need Henry Kissinger or somebody to come in and talk peace with everybody.
Indeed. And as I said the last time I was on here, Mike, recycling has been suspended for over 2 months.
Yeah.
Green and garden waste collections have been suspended for over 2 months, and people are literally burning them in their back gardens. Yeah. Bulk waste collections have been suspended for over 2 months. So it's not just the household waste that's been affected, it's all aspects of household waste management that are being affected. And I've got recycling piling up in my bins because the advice from the City Council is, if you can, store them. But it's been over 2 weeks, been over 2 months since we've had recycling collections here in Birmingham.
Well, where are you supposed to store it?
Well, exactly. I'm running out of storage places, and I'm quite lucky. I do have some storage spaces. Those properties in Birmingham, and there are many of them that have no storage, apart from physically going to a household recycling centre. One of the 5 in the city, there is no place to store it.
Right. And what about the commercial sort of businesses? Are they not also getting their bins emptied as well? Because restaurants, shops, gyms, all of that kind of thing, there's an awful lot of waste created in commercial businesses. What's happening to that?
Yeah, if they've got a commercial contract with the City Council, absolutely. It's hit and miss. And it's not just those, but schools have commercial contracts with the City Council. Residential properties, flats, apartments, have commercial contracts with the City Council. And they're not being collected. And I had an email from a retirement complex in my ward only last week to say there hadn't been a bin collection there for 5 weeks. There are 86 individual flats inside that retirement complex. 5 weeks they had to wait for a commercial waste type collection. So it's just not acceptable, Mike.
No,
not at all.
Absolutely ridiculous. Incredible that we could still be talking about it after all this time. Timothy, good to talk to you, though. Councillor Timothy Huxtable, Shadow Cabinet Member in Birmingham for Highways and the Environment. Incredible that the bin strike is still going on. I mean, it basically started in January. We're now in May, 5 months ago. I mean, it's just extraordinary. Mike, a few years ago, the business I worked for outsourced its whole IT department to India, making many of the UK staff redundant. Not only that, they brought members of the Indian company to the UK to work in the same offices as the redundant UK workers on a rotating 3-year contract to avoid immigration rules and keep the wages low. This new scheme by Starmer seems to be an extension of that bad business practice, says Neil in Surrey. And one from Steve, who says this: Starmer's great Indian giveaway shows again that Labour are unfit to govern. Do the Indian workers who don't have to pay national insurance get access to the NHS and benefits? And do they bring family members with them? Well, they will be able to do all of those things because they will be here having been temporarily granted all the rights that they can have as British citizens. They're also able to vote here, believe it or not, which is even more incredible. David in Leatherhead said, give the prisoner every chance to appear in court. If after every opportunity has been turned down, send in 4 burly wardens, cuff them and drag them into the courtroom. Absolutely right. And one from Julian, who says this: morning, Mike, loving the show. The home of common sense, but my OCD desperately wants to straighten your tie. It looks like Starmer tied it. Yeah, it does look a bit wrong, doesn't it? I'm going to try and figure that out. It seems to be pointing in the wrong direction. We'll come back to that. 7:32.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:35. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock, of course. Zoe says, morning, Mike. Does anyone know where these Indians coming over are going to be housed? Well, no, but it's a very good question. I don't know. Because it may well be that they'll be housed in hotels. It may well be that they'll be housed in temporary accommodation. It may well be that the flats will be commissioned for them to do that. I just don't know the answer to that. One from Angie in Peterborough says, morning, Mike. If these incoming Indians are not going to be paying national insurance, I assume they won't be able to use the NHS. Well, according to the piece of information that I've read, according to what the government says, they will be charged if they use the NHS. But, of course, what we know about the NHS is that there's nobody in the NHS who will ever charge anybody for anything. The junior doctors won't do it, the nurses won't do it, generally the administration won't do it. So if you can get yourself to a hospital, if you're foreign in this country, nobody is going to ask you for a credit card, nobody is going to ask you for any kind of payment whatsoever. They might try and send you a bill at some point, rather sort of uninterestingly, about 6 months after you've left the country. But I don't know of anyone, and if you're working in the NHS, you can tell me, I don't know of anyone in the NHS who has ever admitted that basically we collect money from foreign patients in the NHS system. It just doesn't happen. Let's go to Italy, though, because Alina Trabattoni is there for us, an Italian journalist. I believe we may have a live shot of the chimney from which the white smoke will emerge when they choose a new pope. The procedure for choosing a new pope is now underway, as far as we understand it. Alina, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Thank you very much for joining us. Tell us a bit about what's happening today and how the process works.
Well, it's a really solemn moment, and obviously it's full of anticipation. St. Peter's Square is already packed at the moment with, pilgrims from all parts of the world, because obviously it's also coincided with the Jubilee year, which is a very important moment in the Catholic calendar, and it occurs every 25 years. Now, we're in a particular moment in the interregnum period where there is no Pope at the helm of the Catholic Church, and during this time the College of Cardinals oversee administrative events. But, we're building up to the conclave after Pope Francis so tragically passed away, a day after he came out and met his flock on Easter Sunday. So we've had the building, the installation of the chimney where smoke will come out. This morning at 10:30, we're going to have a pro-elegenda mass before the conclave officially starts. It kicks off after around 16:30. There's a formal procession. It's very visually impactful with all these cardinals in red going towards the Sistine Chapel, which has been specially prepared for this event. It's been swept for recording devices because obviously cardinals have taken oaths sworn to secrecy. It's, seating arrangements are randomized. There's anti-drone film put along the windows so that, films can't be made from the outside. And we're expecting the first round of voting today at 16:30.
Okay. And I don't know whether you can answer this one, but how long does it normally take? I seem to remember the last time this happened, it took quite a long time. There was an awful lot of sort of coming and goings. There was an awful lot of, cameras panning across to the chimney. Is that some white smoke? Oh, no, it's not. It's just somebody having a cigarette. How long has the longest time taken in recent years?
Well, in the 13th century, it took 3 years. And at one point,
wow,
according to historical chronicles, the local sort of infrastructure started reducing the food supplies to the cardinals in a sort of way of trying to encourage them to, get to the final vote. In recent times, actually, it didn't take too long. It feels like a long time because obviously there's all the anticipation and the build-up. And once it kicks off, the eyes of the world, all the locals and the pilgrims on site, and obviously all the television cameras are pointed at the chimney 24/7.
Yeah.
But Pope Francis actually just took under 2 days, which means just under 2 sets of votes So it was 5 votes, if I remember correctly, with Pope Francis. Pope Benedict was quite similar. So all in all, it doesn't take too long, but it really depends because we've got a very particular situation here. 80% of the cardinals appointed have been appointed by Pope Francis.
Right.
Now, 133 will vote. 135 have the right to vote. They're under 80, but 2 have health issues. But they come from all 4 corners of the world, and many of them haven't actually gotten to know each other in the past. 20 were even appointed last December. So there's a big question mark hanging. You know, as one Vatican source told me, it can either be a very short conclave or it will be a very long one. And, you know, we just don't know. We have to wait and see.
Okay. Fascinating. Alina, thank you very much indeed. Alina Trapattoni there, Italian journalist in Rome, giving us the lowdown on whether there might be a new pope by the end of the week, or it could take a lot longer. There's the chimney from which the white smoke will emanate once they're ready. I wonder if there's a book running anywhere. I bet you, I don't know whether one of the big gambling companies are actually running a book on who's going to get it. My personal favourite would be Cardinal Piazzabola, just because it's a great name. I know they changed the name and obviously adopt a different name once they become Pope, but this is the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem we're talking about. Apparently he's a wild card due to his relative youth. He's only 60. There you go. Apparently he spent 3 decades in Jerusalem, including as custodian of holy sites linked to the life of Jesus. He's credited with bringing back the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem back from the verge of bankruptcy after being appointed administrator in 2016. He speaks Hebrew, and he's also condemned both the October 7th, 2023 onslaught and the Israeli bombardment of Gaza. So he's a bit woke by the sounds of it. You never know. It could be him. 7:41. Let's get a call from Steve on the Indian trade deal. Steve, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. What do you want to say?
Just a quick one. These workers are coming over. They're not paying national insurance, and the company isn't either.
No.
We've got 1 million young people not in work, education, or training.
Yeah.
Why can't we do it for them? Why can't we say if you're 16 or 21, between 16 and 21 in this country, if you're a citizen, if you go to work, the company doesn't pay national insurance, and neither do you.
Right.
You get more firms hiring young British people.
Yep.
Those young British people would have more money in their pocket, and that encourages them to go to work.
Yeah.
And problem solving. We don't have to provide housing. All the dependents are already here.
Yeah.
They're not claiming working tax credit. Why don't we just do it for everyone if we can afford to do it?
It's a perfectly good idea. It's a great idea, Steve. Well, you know why they don't want to do it, because they hate us. You know, Keir Starmer doesn't like British people. He doesn't like the British public. He doesn't like working people in Britain. He's finally done something for working people, but they're working people in bleeding India.
And the biggest story, Mike, which you mentioned briefly, they're going to get the vote.
Yeah.
If I go to work in Germany, I did when I was younger years ago, the programme off Wiedersehen, Pep. Well, I was one of those that went to Germany.
Yeah.
I did have the right to vote when I was there. You can work, thanks a lot, Steve. You can build your houses, but you ain't voted. You're not German.
No, exactly. It's complete and utter madness. I mean, I don't know who's given Keir Starmer this idea that, you know, the answer to everything is somebody foreign coming in to do something in this country. Absolute madness. Steve, thank you very much indeed. Stephen is in London. Let's talk to him. Stephen, very good morning to you.
Hello, Mike. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, sir. What can I do for you?
I just wanted to add something to this about people coming and not paying national insurance.
Yeah.
My wife is European. I was told 6 years ago by a nurse in a care home, a leading nurse in a care home that was looking after my mother, that all European people that came to this country worked, paid national insurance and paid income tax.
Yeah.
If they left the country and told the government they're going back to their country and they will not come back to the UK for, I think it was either 3 or 5 years, the government gave them every single penny of income tax back. Not the national insurance, but every single penny of income tax. I've been told this by 3 people. My wife knows about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question that there are reciprocal rights which can exist. I mean, when I worked in America, you could choose to pay taxes in America or London or England, right? Well, that's fair enough. And I think if that's the situation where you can either pay your tax in India or pay your tax in Britain, that's also fair enough. But you've got to pay it somewhere. You can't just have no national insurance to pay as a kind of you just strike it out altogether. I've not heard that about European member states either, but it may well be true, Stephen.
I think this was only up until I'm not sure, but I don't think it's happening now. I think this was up until the Brexit.
Right. I certainly know what is true, because this is experience that I've got for myself. When my children were very young living in Scotland, there were lots of people who came here from Poland at that time, under the Tony Blair regime, to come and work in this country. And many of them are still in receipt of child benefit because they would have had children who were eligible for child benefit living in Scotland, but they then went back to Poland and they were still getting paid it.
Exactly. And they've got lump sums of all the income tax they paid.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Stephen, good call. Thank you very much indeed. Joanna from Salisbury says, Mike, so an Indian company can set up a contract, for example, emptying bins. They can undercut other companies because of cheap labour and no unions, and also, of course, no national insurance. Zoe says, morning, Mike. Keith won't get the British vote, so now through desperate measures they are importing the votes. This bloke is causing massive divisions in our country, and it is dangerous. And Kenny from Edinburgh says, Mike, it just shows how stupid Labour are. They are appeasing 4 million Muslims, but now riling up 60 non-Muslims. Also, they can keep their own grubby hands on power. It is absolutely and utterly ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely bonkers mad. Let's get a voice note from Paul.
Surely, after these last local elections, he needs to do something for the British people. Then what does he go and do? The first chance he gets, Indian workers don't have to pay no tax, while everyone else... this guy is an absolute muppet. I cannot understand how there's no one in House of Lords or anyone stopping him. They've got to stop him. Someone's got to stop him. No one's saying out to him. He's doing what he wants. This is not the Soviet Union. Oh, for crying out loud, no wonder people in this country are utterly depressed and miserable, because look at state leaders. We've got absolute Neanderthals at the helm. This has got to stop. Keir Starmer's got to go. I want a reform UK government. I've had enough of Labour. I've had enough of Tories. This country is on its arse.
Paul, you're absolutely right, and I think a lot of people will agree with every single item of news that you've reported there. And everybody's sick to death of Starmer, even his own party, right? We're going to be talking to Esther McVeigh a little bit later on the show. She put out a tweet yesterday in which she said the skids are under Starmer. He's not long for this world. He's not going to be around for very much longer because even his own party wants rid of him. And I think that's right. But you're absolutely right. We're sick to death of being treated as second-class citizens in our own country. And that is what Starmer is treating us like. 7:47.
The problem with the Tories is the moment they get a bad result, the first thing they think of doing is regicide. Like, let's get rid of the leader.
Yeah.
How many leaders have they had in the last 20 years?
507, apparently.
I don't... Well, they've all had a go at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem for the Tories is, look, I think Robert Jenrick has shown himself to be a very capable politician. He's actually been almost like the unofficial leader of the opposition. Well, I completely agree with that. Kemi has maybe not been quite what a lot of people thought she would have been when they voted her to become party leader.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, 7:50. Do you know, it's time now to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a weekend away in Munich at the end of May to watch the biggest game in European football. That is, of course, the Champions League final. We're also putting £5 in your pocket to spend however you want to spend it. Of course, this is what you're going to be getting.
Win a once-in-a-lifetime trip to watch the Champions League final live. Go to talksport.com/win for your chance to embark on the ultimate odyssey of football ecstasy. With 2 tickets to the Champions League final live at the iconic Munich Football Arena, Germany, including flights, accommodation, and an uber-massive £5 in your hand. How about that? Enter online now at talksport.com/win. Terms and conditions apply. Achtung, baby.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win that VIP trip, simply text the word football to 3338 by the 16th of May, 11 p.m. A text will cost you £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have bill payer's permission. Or you can just send your name and number by post to Champions League Final Comp, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. It must arrive by 5 p.m. on May the 21st.
Don't miss out on this incredible giveaway from our colleagues at Talk Sport. Good luck. Imagine that. Champions League final and £5,000 as well. We'll be playing you more of that and giving you more chances to win than ever. Just before we talk to Donald McLeod, clubs and the venue owner, columnist, of course, raconteur, entrepreneur, man of mystery, MBE as well, of course, and just recently the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award. Let's have a look at Donald Trump. Because there's many things that you can say about Donald McLeod, and I think, Trump and he have got some things in common. Have a look at him talking about the 51st state of Canada with Mark Carney.
I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it.
Donald Trump there, just literally ripping it out of Mark Carney, who's quite a boring man. Donald McLeod, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning.
I can't
believe you compared me to that, man.
I know that's going to get you in a lot of trouble. Sorry, that's not what I meant. But what I meant was that's the kind of thing you would do. You'd invite somebody in, right, and sit them down and say, right, we're going to talk about all manner of stuff. But in fact, you would just then rip them a new one by sort of just making fun of them, which is what he did there.
Yes, well, that's true, and I did that the other night there when I got my award. I couldn't believe it when I went up on stage and getting this award in front of 700 peers. And it was a standing ovation. You could hear a pin drop, and then I've been cancelled more times than a Calmac ferry. And like the scarecrow, I'm out standing in my field.
Yes,
but I am the Wurzel Gummidge of who's not been put out to pasture yet, but certainly I say it how it is, as you do, and
exactly right.
The only way you can do it.
And it's a Lifetime Achievement Award for what you've done in the hospitality business, in the music business. You've been in it a long time. I mean, not many people could have survived some of the stuff you've been through.
It took them 6.5 minutes to go through the list. I was falling off my chair. I know it was a great achievement. It was a great night, a great award to receive, and I felt so proud because it's been a very torrid time, as you know.
It has.
in the hospitality industry in general, no more so than my place. I'm thinking of becoming Indian now, with these NI, right? 3 NI, and I was thinking that, there's a great one I look up, the garage would be the gay Raj, fantastic, or even better, this sounds like a dish, the cat house, the Billy Gar.
Right, absolutely right. Why not, indeed? I mean, it is ludicrous, isn't it? And we'll come back to what it's like at the moment, but I need to get from you, I don't know if anybody asked you on the night, the finest moment and possibly the worst moment for you over this career of yours. I mean, I know you've talked a lot about getting Prince in to play the garage, which was a kind of a massive thing and a huge surprise. What would you say was your high point in this career of yours?
I think the highest point way in the beginning was that, but the highest point is at the moment, is to continue to battle through. I mean, there's nothing like a fight, and it's a huge one at the moment. But there's been so many bands played at the garage, and indeed the Cat House, Queens of the Stone Age, Fall Out Boy. I mean, I could go on and on if I could remember all the names. That's the lowest point. The older you get, it's like, I thought they were all on the same night.
Yeah.
But it's great, but it's so tough out there, Mike. It really is. I mean, it's. There's 2 clubs shutting a week across the UK. And there was that report that came out of London, 3,000 odd pubs have closed since the pandemic. So hospitality, this is probably the lowest period for the 35 years, 40 years that I've been in.
And we're joking. I mean, we're joking about the Indian trade deal, but which is obviously, ridiculous in so many different ways. But we shouldn't forget that, you're amongst those businesses that's having to now pay this higher rate of national insurance.
Well, absolute joke, I mean, I'm £200,000 hit right away. Where did I get that from? To pass it on to the customers? They'll reduce shifts, get rid of staff, that's it. So it's unfair, and I just can't get my head around why they can. So in you come, boys. You don't have to pay any taxes. We're getting absolutely throttled. It's really, really bad. I mean, the only good thing about that recent that announcement was that for the whiskey industry, over the 10 years, it's going to get its tariffs reduced from 150% to 10.
Yeah.
That's great. It's a multi-billion-pound hit, uplift for the whiskey industry, but there's nothing there for hospitality. There hasn't been for a long time. There's been they should be making it. Getting rid of the NI, they should be reducing the VAT as they do in Ireland and in Scotland. They should be giving us our rates money, which they haven't done. I mean, we're getting hit by all sides up here in Scotland.
And what about the SNP? Can they not alter the national insurance rise if they want to? I know they are the laughing stock now of the world, but
Oh no, that's not a devolved matter. And as John Swinney will tell you, it's nothing to do with me. The grim reaper of hospitality. It really is bad, that man. But he came up with one yesterday. Who would have think there's an election around the corner? When they completely get rid of peak rail fares in Scotland, and then say, and the booze ban has been lifted. That was it. The booze ban has been lifted in trains in Scotland. It shouldn't have been there in the first place.
No, of course, absolute madness.
They shouldn't have reduced. They shouldn't have stopped the peak fares. They should have kept the discounts going because it was going to be a success. Not that that'll matter too much to hospitality at night because there's hardly any trains. They keep getting cancelled anyway. So, it's a complete joke, the whole thing.
It really is. And I think it's because they just think that people like yourselves are so resilient that you'll just keep battering on no matter what. No matter what they throw at you, no matter how many legs they chop away from you, you'll just still be there because you love what you do.
I'm like that night in the Monty Python's movie. Come on, you're thinking hard enough. But there's only so much you can take, and as I say, you're seeing pubs and clubs shutting at a rate of naught, and live venues, grassroots music venues, 2 a month are getting closed down, and still nobody's standing up and supporting the industry and government, at least anyway. And up here in Scotland, where they came up with a rates reduction, which England had got for 3 years, Scotland didn't get for that 3 years. But when they did bring it out, they still managed to exclude 2,000 premises because of a rates cap that they put in, and it was quite complicated, but it was so sneaky of them.
I know,
so
absolute rubbish, nonsense. Listen, I've got to run. Donald, great to see you. I'll see you soon, hopefully. All the best. There it is. There he is. We'll see you after the news. Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week, the one show where you do not have to be worried about judgmental people because we'll do all the judging for you. Let's just have a look at how Humphrey Useless is now spending his time.
There goes your career, mate.
Over there a bit is over towards where all the migrants come in. He's jumping there. There he goes. He goes over the bar.
Hello,
and
lady.
unfortunately, it catches on his Johnson.
If he's Plank of the Week, he's got a sizable plank.
That's a whole different show.
Plank of the Week, Fridays at 7 on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham. We're here with you, of course, until 10 o'clock. 4 glorious hours of Morning Glory every single weekday morning now from 6 until 10. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by the newest MP in Parliament. Sarah Pochin is here. Sarah, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
So brilliant to see you. And congratulations, can I say, for your incredible win last week. And I'm, like you, one of those people who says you didn't just win by 6 votes, you won by 14,000
14,700 was the majority, I think, roughly, and 6.
Exactly right. We've got lots to talk about. We're going to talk about, by the way, did you know, I haven't mentioned this yet on the show, junior doctors thinking about going on strike again. Apparently the 22% they got last year from West Streeting wasn't enough. They don't want another 10%. Even West Streeting's starting to squeak. He's starting to go, this is unreal. This is ridiculous. Well, guess what? This is what happens when you start giving money to the public sector. They come back for more and more and more and more. Richard Tice was in here earlier. He said they're going to war with Ed Miliband over net zero. I welcome that. I'm looking forward to that. Sarah is going to have some very interesting things to say about being the newest parliamentarian, of course. We will take your calls continually throughout the show, 0344 499 1000, and one on the Pope, because we're waiting for the white smoke to appear from the Vatican. According to this person who doesn't give a name, regarding Cardinal Pizzaballa, surely a candidate with pizza in his name would have to become Papa John if elected. Well, I suppose he would. I'm hoping that's not going to offend any Catholics. Donald Trump was accused of offending them the other day. He managed to get away with it. But anyway, this is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Andy in Cornwall says, so I can get an Indian businessman to open up a resources company, provide me with labour and reduce my tax bill while giving the businessman a cut of the savings. Two-tier care for the working people as long as they're not from the UK. It's absolutely true. Sarah Pochin, welcome to Morning Glory. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's lovely to see you. The new MP for Runcorn and Helsby. What a campaign and what a result. I mean, incredible. We came in on Friday morning and I guess none of us were quite prepared for the landslide that it would later be.
Yeah.
But as soon as, I think it was 1 minute to 6, literally we were about to start the show, we had all these plans to do all sorts of interviews with different people, different stories, and we just went, we're just wiping it out now. We're just going to wipe it out on this one story because reform and the tidal wave of popularity is hard to resist, isn't it? It's a great British story, really.
It's a great story. Obviously, we timed it perfectly for your show, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Very
that.
kind.
Yeah, I wanted to give you the scoop.
Yes.
But what a night it was. It was a real roller coaster.
Yeah.
I didn't have any doubt in my deep inside that we were going to do it because the wave of feeling, the wave of feeling of being completely let down by the Labour government, by the voters in particularly the Runcorn side. This constituency is very much a constituency of two halves, which many are.
Right.
So I've got beautiful leafy chocolate boxy bits, and then I've got Runcorn, which really needs help. But those people in Runcorn, they are so fed up, so let down by the Labour government in only 10 months that they were coming in desperate for change, desperate for someone to vote for. You know, the Tories have failed the whole country for 14 years. In 10 months, Labour are seemingly actively going out to destroy whatever we have left. And it's really frightening. And people have had enough.
Yes, they have. And when I talk to people who are friends of mine or family members who live abroad now, they can't quite believe what's going on.
Happening?
I was talking to my daughter, she lives in Dubai, yesterday about this business. I wrote a piece for the Telegraph, which is out today, about the rental market now and how it's about to explode. It's like a ticking time bomb. They're going to start putting migrants into houses and flats in ordinary streets. Runcorn maybe a place. It's a massive issue. And she was saying, well, that's insane. What are they thinking? And we're getting calls from people saying we've had a notice of eviction from the landlord because basically, you know, they want to move in asylum seekers because they'll make more money.
Well, they're getting guaranteed income for 5 years.
For 5 years, and
all
repairs and everything, and all the services, free management and all the rest of it.
That was the number one issue on the doorstep and in our campaign office in Runcorn was the illegal immigrants. And, you know, the people all come in and say, I'm not racist, but, and you know what, we need to, you know, it's almost like we're apologising for making this point, but somebody needs to stand up, be brave, which I am doing, and saying, look, this is a real issue. People can't get houses. And this was before Keir Starmer's ruling. I mean, we've got, officially, I think it's 750, but I think now, you know, it's over 900, I think the figure is, of illegal immigrants in Runcorn alone. But those are the ones we know about, Mike. You know, once they go into a private landlord situation, they're lost in the system. You're never going to see those again. And so it's a real growing issue.
And there's no end to it, is there? Because it seems open-ended. You know, if you say you rent a property to 15 migrants who are living in a I don't know, 4-bedroom house, which has now become an HMO, right? And suddenly they're in there for the duration. What happens after 5 years? And maybe they don't get asylum. They get moved somewhere else. They get a job working for one of these delivery companies. You know, the whole system is completely rotten from the inside.
It's rotten, but from my point of view, as somebody who's now representing a constituency where this is a big issue, the things that are really scary is people are frightened. So in these streets where they have these HMOs, ladies have come into the office, several CCTV showing me CCTV of men at night, drug dealing going on, men arriving with knives, threatening behaviour, the noise levels. Even taxis of young girls being dropped off at night, picked up in the morning. You know, and these are in streets where families live. So you know what? It was it was holidays when we were during the campaign. At some point, just not, you know, you don't see children playing anymore. People are worried to let their children out the streets because the migrants film them. There were 2 girls walking in the park. I heard this story, and one of the migrants came up and offered them money for, would they like to come with him, earn some money? Oh my God, this is happening under our noses, and Labour are in absolute denial that
Not
this
only
is
are they
going
in
on.
denial, they don't want to talk about it.
They don't
we've
want to
seen
talk
that
about it.
with Lucy Powell and the rape gangs. I mean, she gave away, did she not, the entire view of the Labour government
Absolutely.
about why they don't want to do a national inquiry.
Can you
they
believe
don't
she
care,
said
do
that?
they?
Can you believe she said an absolute betrayal of women? I am going to be, as you know, I've been a magistrate for 20 years, so my core, subject, I guess, is law and order.
Yeah.
And oh my God, do we need someone to stand up now for law and order? I mean, one of the reasons I resigned as a magistrate to fight the campaign, because you can't mix the judiciary and politics, clearly.
Well, Keir Starmer's not been very good at it, has he?
Yeah, exactly. But I was getting to the point where I was going to resign anyway, because how can you do a job like being a judge, presiding justice as I was, and be told that you can't send certain ethnic minorities to prison, that you have to go soft on certain areas. You can't do that job and have those parameters on you. So, I mean, it was already getting to the point where law and order was starting to become a bit of a joke.
So you know from the inside that there is two-tier justice,
100%.
that there is two-tier policing,
100%.
and you've seen it.
100%.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and I've watched it getting worse and worse and worse over the last 20 years. So, I feel very strongly that I want to be a voice for saying that, again, and I've said it so many times about so many issues, enough is enough.
Yes, and I think many people say that. I mean, we've done this show for just over a year, but before that, obviously, I did the mid-morning show. And ever since I've been at Talk Radio, 5, 6 years, maybe 7 years, actually, people have wanted a voice, and they're now getting that voice with reform.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more than just people being fed up with Labour and being fed up with the Tories. I think it's being fed up with this kind of sense that politicians are not part of our community anymore. They live in this bubble.
Yep.
They live, of course they have, constituencies, and I'm sure many of them go there, and some of them are better than others, but in the end of the day, they live in this Westminster bubble where they don't speak our language anymore.
I want to pick up on that. So I have worked in the community for 20 years as a magistrate, as a borough councillor for 8. Before that, I had a career with Shell, various PLCs. I'm a mum. I brought my children up. What I'm saying is I've got an awful lot of experience.
You're an ordinary
real
person,
life
in fact,
experience.
right?
Ordinary person, a grounded person, and that is what we need in politicians, not these career politicians that go straight. They do their PPE stuff, and then they go and carry bags around Westminster, and then they become an MP.
Right.
What do they know about real life? There is nothing that I haven't seen, talked about with people, dealt with in the courts. And you need an element of compassion, you need an element of understanding of what problems people have. And without that, how can you truly be a politician? And in my acceptance speech, and I meant every word of it, I said, I am in politics because I care. I don't need to be doing this job. I don't need to be putting my head above the parapet and taking the risks I am with my own personal safety, with the issues that I feel strongly about talking about. But the point is I'm doing it because we need people like me.
Of course.
This country needs people now who are saying, I will stand up for what is right. I'm happy to say I'm proud to be British.
Yes, of course.
And I came down the Mall this morning, on my way here. Oh my God, it really.
When you see,
it's so touching to see those flags. We do it so well as a country, don't we?
Monday was brilliant, wasn't it? There was Bank Holiday Monday. May Day was there. It was the fly past. It makes you, because we don't see it often enough in this country.
We don't.
And London in particular, and you'll notice this. I don't know how well you know London, but London has changed. I was born here in 1960, a very long time ago, and to see it change over the course of the last 50 or 60 years has been quite remarkable.
It's so sad, isn't it?
And again, you get accused of being a racist if you say the truth, which is that white people in London are now in a minority.
I think,
and I don't care whether there's Lebanese restaurants or Indian restaurants. All of that is fine and dandy. But there's something that's happened in the last 5 years which has changed everything.
And what worries us in Reform UK is that we've got 4.5 years left of this Labour government. What damage are they going to do? I mean, we clearly are on the move. We're on the march, and the country is ready for us. I've got no doubt about that.
No question.
This country is going turquoise. We've already seen that with the council elections and this historic win in Runcorn and Helsby. But the point is, how much time have we got to sort of save the country? And that sounds, I know that sounds so dramatic. It's so real.
It is.
And what's happened now with this Indian deal that Keir Starmer said, he's selling out British workers again.
Yes. And then ludicrously puts out a statement and puts out his little tweet every single day as he does, and doesn't mention the national insurance break.
Shocking.
As if we're not going to find out.
As though we're not going to notice.
Oh, that's okay then. This is all brilliant. And it's like they live in this bubble where they think that this is what people want. Yes, we want to have cheaper goods. Yes, we want to be able to buy things that we can afford. But we don't want you to give away the farm
but you know what?
while we're doing it.
Mike, it's the houses they'll take.
Yeah.
It's the jobs layoffs that obviously they'll take. British workers have been sold out because companies will set up. We know that companies will set up on
because we live in the real
ways.
world.
Absolutely.
Richard Tice said the same thing. It's a scammer's charter.
It
right?
is.
All you need to do is go down the road, rent an office above a post office, and say, "We've got a postal address. This is my new company. Happens to have a head office in India."
Yeah.
Away
But
you
you know what? There's no limit on it. How frightening is that?
Yeah.
There's no limit on numbers, and there's no limit on the time of this deal.
Yeah.
That is really frightening. So, we've already got this problem of immigration. Where are we going to put all these people that are now going to come in?
Exactly. Now, how long did it take you to decide to do this? Because you said that, obviously, you in some ways it's a risk. It's a personal risk. You don't have to do it. Did you have any kind of misgivings about when you were first asked? I presume you were asked by Nigel Farage, would you be interested in running? Did you have any kind of misgivings about not running?
No.
None at all?
None at all. I was brought up in a very proud, patriotic household. My parents were, always interested in politics, and they were working class people. My dad was in the army. My mum ran a post office.
Yeah.
But the patriotism, I suppose, I've just been brought up with.
Yes.
And I first met Nigel 10 years ago. I was the Tory councillor at the time, but I followed him ever since, and I just felt I'd had a couple of years in the wilderness from politics, but then you know what? If it's in you, and you just feel so passionately about these issues, and I do so care about my constituents now, so want to do good by them, care about the national issues. So at whatever level, I'm happy to talk and feel very passionate about it. You can't not get involved because the country needs people like me.
Yes, it really does. And in terms of the way that reform has kind of shifted from what many people, even just before that election on Thursday, were calling a protest party, it feels as though there's a Rubicon that's been crossed now, and that people, and I think this is true, and I don't know whether you can tell me whether it is, that people will now be prouder and less unwilling to actually admit that they're Reform voters, because they used to call them shy Tories, people wouldn't admit to being Tories, and I think Reform had that problem. But now I think when they see people like you coming through, they see a fantastic, successful woman, who's able to break through the glass ceiling of politics, because there still is one, I think, for a lot of women. And you're just an ordinary person, and I mean that as a compliment.
I am. I'm
honestly.
an ordinary person.
Yeah, but I mean it as a compliment. An ordinary person who can be as successful as you, who can win an election. I think people can hang their hats on that and go, this is what we need.
Absolutely. Do you know what? The people are proud. I've had text messages, endless WhatsApp messages from people that I didn't have any idea, who've never said that they followed politics, and suddenly they're saying, "Oh, well, we've always been Reform supporters." Like, well, why didn't you say so? But now I think
because they couldn't.
No, they couldn't, because again, you're accused of being racist. But now I think, let's be loud, let's be proud to be British, to have these values. We're not racist. We just want to make sure that this country is going to, not be bankrupted, because that's what we're facing. We're facing bankruptcy by these crazy policies like Keir Starmer's now done with this Indian deal. And you can say, oh, it's worth however many billion to the economy. What is it going to mean for people's lives in constituencies like mine? It's going to be really tough.
Exactly right. And also every estimate they make of any financial gain that they're going to make seems to be so far off. If they're running a post office, they'll be out of business in a couple of days.
Exactly.
Final question for you. Can you give us a 100% guarantee that you're not going to punch any of your constituents?
Do you know what? I think you're okay on that one. I think you're okay.
Unless they really broke it, Great to see you. Sarah, I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
We definitely need, it's like a breath of fresh air. A lot of people said to me on Friday, we can, for the first time, we've got a smile on our face. We've woken up to this incredible victory.
Absolutely. The energy.
And people feel energised.
And
they feel
they've got
hopeful.
hope.
Yeah.
They've got hope for the
future. I always said they would. I always said that. Brilliant to see you. Great to see you. Sarah Pochin there, the brand new MP for Runcorn. I think she's going to be fantastic. What do you think? 18 minutes past 8.
the other issues, you know, the visa crackdowns and all these other things, well, for local government, that's been having a real impact actually on the allocation of houses and resources. Because don't forget that as soon as you accept one of these, well, accept one, when one is forced upon you, that is, that actually you've got to pay for everything from translation costs to the education of the children.
Yeah.
So the cost to the taxpayer is always massive. Local elections really do matter, and I think people really understood that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 21 minutes past 8. Wasn't Sarah Pochin absolutely refreshing in her approach, incredibly open in the way that she was talking about why she wants to be a politician, the exact kind of politician that we need in Parliament. You know, because what we're sick of are these automatons, people like Jonathan Reynolds, who pretended to be a solicitor for so many years that he actually thought he had convinced everyone that he was one, and even convinced himself. Keir Starmer, you know, sorting out the foundations, fixing them for the working people, while giving away the store to India. You know, Angela Rayner, who hasn't really got much of an interest in much at all, apart from going to Ibiza and getting involved in a few raves. Esther McVeigh's here with us. She's another MP who is exactly like Sarah Pochin, absolutely enthusiastic, absolutely meaning what she says and doing what she says as well. Former Minister for Common Sense. Esther, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I think...
yes, Sarah Pochin is my neighbour.
Is she?
My neighbour and MP, absolutely. Yes.
I was going to say, I think she reminded me a bit of you, to be honest, because very straight talking, you know, a very attractive personality, a very good voice, a very good voice for the people, and a real actual kind of aim for... She knows what she wants to do, and she's got great reason to be in Parliament. And the more people like you and her there are, the better hope there is for the rest of the country.
Yes, well, put it this way, it was a big win for reform, and it was a massive loss for Labour. I mean, that's their 16th safest seat in the country. And some of this upset that is being felt in the Labour Party, and can I tell you, in the House at the moment, sort of the Parliamentary Labour Party, it's positively mutinous to Keir Starmer, and it's because they lost Runcorn by 6 votes.
Right.
And Keir Starmer couldn't even be bothered to go up there. And Labour MPs thought that was unfathomable and unforgivable, because if the Prime Minister had have gone up there, they could have maybe turned round those 3 votes. That's all it would have been, 3 votes turnaround. But instead, they lost the seat. Reform is in there, and he's an unlucky general. That's what he's proved to be.
Well, he is, because, I mean, without wishing to put too fine a point on it, no sooner had he signed a new trade deal with India than they suddenly declared war on Pakistan. And you're kind of going, hang on a minute, that's the touch of Keir Starmer going on there, because we know that there's about... between them, 3 million people living in this country who are either from India or from Pakistan. And there's been tensions in the past before, and there will no doubt be tensions today and running through the whole of this week as a result of that war in that particular part of the country, in the part of the world, rather. And everything he touches seems to turn to something not very nice.
Absolutely. And I think not only is he unlucky, you saw the duplicity when they were announcing this deal. They never talked about how they were going to change the tax rules, the national insurance contribution rules, to make it more favourable for India. We've got the Great Indian Takeaway, new meaning to an Indian takeaway. They're taking away the levels of national insurance contribution. And I think this is what people don't like about Keir Starmer. You know, what he says, what he does, plus knocking on the doors and what the voters thought. And again, what they thought at that by-election in Runcorn is British citizens are treated secondary. So, you know, we haven't got enough money for our pensioners, but we have to put immigrants in hotels. We haven't got enough money for farmers, but we can send it overseas. We haven't got the money, or we don't want to do, or the Labour Party don't want to do this national rape gang inquiry to look at what happened to white working class girls. This is the problem. And now you're seeing foreign citizens will get a better tax deal. That is the problem. Keir Starmer puts the British citizen second, and that is another reason why these Labour MPs now are coming back to the House saying, you aren't the leader for us.
Yeah, you put a tweet out yesterday, a recording of you speaking, basically saying that the skids are under Keir Starmer. I've been saying since about, I would say, August of last year, that there is something about Keir Starmer that will lead him to do something so dreadful that he will be out of office way before the next election. I believed it then, I believe it now. I think you're right. I think the Lucy Powell incident, where she was so disparaging and ghastly about the rape gang inquiry and the rape gang victims, was a further nail in the coffin of Labour. I think people are beginning to work out that Keir Starmer is not the man that he purports to be. I mean, he's not even a proper barrister, right? Because I've spoken now to several people who remember him when he was in charge of the CPS. He never actually pleaded a case in court. He was never somebody who was great at wandering around, you know, with his gown on, being able to sort of, convince a jury that he was right and the other side was wrong. He's never done that. So he's kind of pretending that he was a great barrister when he never really had that skill.
Well, he went up on that journey, but he moved out of doing that role into the DPP as soon as possible. But what you're also seeing, and this is why I said I felt the skids were under him, you're seeing briefings and counter briefings really high up. And one of them was over the winter fuel payment. Yes. Will he do a U-turn over that or not? Now, the upset came as soon as they announced that winter fuel policy. But Labour MPs have stayed loyal and silent, and they haven't done anything. But those local election results were disastrous. That by-election result was disastrous. And they all felt, really, we need to change the winter fuel payment. So you saw yesterday, we're not. And then government officials had to come out, Labour Party officials, to say it was not happening. That, to me, says you have serious problems that people are briefing and counter-briefing. And this is where you can see the momentum is gathering. His MPs are unhappy. Lots of them haven't even come back to Parliament. Parliament was quiet yesterday. And that, I think, is when people are planning and plotting it, who maybe they'll have instead of him. I think that will be an interesting question. I think he thinks a reshuffle that's now mooted to be in June could save his skin, but really I think it's the start of the end.
Yeah, I think so. Because let's talk a bit about this deal, this ridiculous trade deal that has been done with India, which is basically, as Richard Tice called it this morning, a charter for people to scam the government. Because all you've got to do is find somebody who's got some connection in India who can open up a shop for you above, I don't know, a part of New Delhi which isn't occupied. And then you say, I'm going to open the branch office here in London, and suddenly you start importing loads of workers. It'd be like that kebab shop in the Midlands who have sponsored 950 people from Pakistan to come and work in a skilled job in Britain.
You see, you and I can see this straight away because we're savvy, and you'll see what people can do to bypass the rules and get in cheaper labour. So you're undercutting British workers, and you're also undercutting British businesses, as they'll be paying significantly more on the employer's NIC contribution, and they're going to have to deal with the cost of Angela Rayner's workers' rights as well. So this is the start of the problem. But you know what it also says to me? He was obviously so desperate to do this deal. He signed up for this. And where does that all stem from? That stems from Rachel Reeves' disastrous budget last October. There is no growth. They're desperately short of money. They don't know what to do. And they are now selling us for nothing around the world. You've seen the deal they're doing with China, the fact they've got their embassy over here, questions. What money did she get for that? Relatively little. It seems like it was 600 million or less to sell us down the Swanee there, and they're going to do the same with India. I think we need them out before they can do too much damage to our great British nation.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Esther, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. We'll talk some more soon, but we're sort of up against it time-wise this morning. Former Minister for Common Sense still talks an awful lot of it. We need more people like Esther McVeigh. We need more people like Sarah Pochin as well. Pochin, here's Penny and Tony on her.
Morning, Mike. Penny from Southampton. Just a quick one regarding Sarah Pochin. She's absolutely amazing. Absolutely in love with what she's doing. Love reform. Big up the turquoise.
Morning, Mike. Tony from North Somerset. What a refreshing piece of radio that was to listen to with Sarah Pochin from your reform. I think she's going to cause many problems for Keir Starmer, especially at Prime Minister questions. I hope she stands up and answers him something. Long may it continue, and long live Morning Glory. Brilliant as ever show, and a brilliant interview. Keep up the good work, mate.
Penny and Tony, brilliant, absolutely right. I mean, you see people like Sarah Pochin and Richard Tice and the enthusiasm with which Reform go at what they're about to do, and the absolute just brilliance of their ideas, and the fact that they're cutting through all of this stuff that, you know, ordinary people want them to do. And I said to Sarah, she's an ordinary person. I said it as a compliment, because it is a compliment. Because these bozos in Parliament don't know what ordinary people want. They don't know what they think. They don't know who they are. They don't really even recognise them. And the really tragic thing is that people like Keir Starmer and Lucy Powell and their ilk, people like Jonathan Reynolds, Mr. Nobody, you know, they think that people who vote for Reform are racist bigots and horrible, nasty, ghastly people. And they couldn't be more wrong. Let's talk now to Tony Smith, former head of UK Border Force, because he's got a big piece in The Sun this morning. The headline says, "The visa geezers. Our weak visa system is being gamed by bogus asylum seekers looking for an easy route into Britain, and we must fix it." Tony, very good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Mike.
Good to see you. This is a subject that's very close to my heart. I've been talking about it for a long time, and only yesterday we were talking about the ludicrousness of not only the illegal boat crossings that are going on and still going on and increasing with every week as we get closer to the summer, but the people who come here, and I've said this for years, on student visas, on work visas to do a particular job, who then overstay that visa and end up claiming asylum anyway. You know, and I mean, obviously we're talking about the India deal this morning. That's going to create even more of the same problem, isn't it?
Yeah, Mike, you may remember we spoke about this a few weeks ago when the last figures came out. But, you know, although people are very excited, and obviously rightly so, about the very large number now of people coming by small boat, even more are coming in through what we would call visa routes. And this means that they're going in to apply for visas around the world, saying, you know, I'm coming to work here, I'm going to study there. And then as soon as they get here, they claim asylum. And some of them are even ending up in asylum hotels, according to the Times article yesterday.
Yes, that's right.
We know, Mike, that that's what's happened, because we fingerprint all visa applicants coming to this country, and we fingerprint them again when they turn up and claim asylum. So we know that where they applied, what passports they produced, what they said, and obviously further investigation by qualified, experienced immigration officers would recognise that is a false statement, that's a false rep, that is a dodgy document. You're not really working in that place, you're not really going to that school, you really haven't got, that's not your money that you're showing us. It means proper investigations, Mike. Visas are our first line of defence. I worked as a visa officer myself abroad in Bangladesh, and you would not. No self-respecting immigration officer would be issuing visas to somebody who is likely to be claiming asylum and claiming destitution on arrival. We've lost the plot. We need to shut the front door, Mike, because we've shut the back door, because the front door is causing enough problems as it is.
Well, exactly right. And one of the biggest areas of problems, I would say, is the education sector, isn't it? I mean, I know that since the government under Rishi Sunak actually stopped relatives and dependents coming with students, which was always a really stupid idea anyway, that number of people who've applied to come as students has gone down a bit, which tells you all about why they were really coming, right? But these institutions, these educational institutions, have become so dependent on foreign students' money that they're not going to be very cooperative if you say to them, would you mind not continuing to give out these student visas to people in Bangladesh and India and Pakistan? Thank you very much.
Well, of course, yeah, we've given a lot more authorities to employers and colleges to sponsor people coming over here, Mike, and they've got a vested interest, haven't they? Because to keep their educational establishment running and keep the money rolling in, they need people from overseas to come and pay the fees. But the problem is they're coming in as ostensibly as students, but clearly if they're coming here and then immediately they get here, they're claiming asylum, not students, are they? They're not proper students at all. No. And actually some of them are even becoming a burden on the state when they should be capable of supporting themselves before they get that visa in the first place. That's why we need qualified qualified immigration officers dotted around the world looking at these cases I used to do to stop this sort of mischief happening.
Because there's no question about the system being completely compromised and completely taken advantage of. I mean, 40,000 of the people seeking asylum in this country last year were people who came in by legal routes. And I've been turning blue in the face trying to tell all these lefties when they said, oh, but, you know, the reason people come on small boats is because there's no safe and legal routes. Well, yes, there are, actually. Come in as a student, come in as a worker on a visa, and you can claim asylum. 40,000 people who claimed asylum last year had all come in on visas.
Yeah, and the immigration system these days is designed that a visa operation is your border, Mike. You make your application before you travel, right? You do this when you go to the States, you do this when you go to other countries, and they're supposed to properly vet you and not even give you a visa. And if you can't get a visa, you can't get on a plane. You can't get here at all. So the whole system is geared up to having a very, very strong overseas operation. I'm afraid we've watered ours down to the extent now we've got we've got locally employed staff running it. A lot of it's been computerised, and clearly now they've spotted this. Actually, quite a few are slipping through that net, and we need to tighten it up. Else we're never going to have an effective border, because the border actually is supposed to be part of the visa system, is part of the border.
Yeah, exactly right. Tony, great to talk to you, and a great piece in The Sun this morning. Former head of UK Border Force. Thank you very much indeed. The visa geezers, he says. Our weak visa system is being gamed by bogus asylum seekers looking for an easy route into Britain. We must fix it. Well, of course, the government has done a great deal this morning to completely endanger it even further, because guess what? Looking at some of the interesting reports this morning about Indian businesses, there's nearly 1,000 Indian companies operating inside the United Kingdom as of today. I will guarantee you, but by the end of this year, there will be 2,000. And possibly by the end of the following year, it'll be 3,000. Because all you've got to do is have a business in India, which you can open in this country, and you can then start bringing in, by the boatload, literally, and the plane load, loads and loads of Indian workers who won't be paying any national insurance for 3 years. And you won't have to pay national insurance on their behalf for 3 years either. Extraordinary stuff. Andy from Knott says we need 400 more Sarahs from Runcorn and less Rodleys from Islington, now twinned with Delhi. Sarah Pochin, says Maggie in Cheshire, what a wonderful lady. Proud to have her in our party. I have every faith in her. Let battle begin. Mike, I hear the next Prime Minister right there. Well done, Sarah, says Teresa in Lancashire. And Kish in Greater Manchester says this. What a very impressive woman Sarah Pochin is. Grounded, experienced, articulate and intelligent. She's exactly the type of person required to make this country great again. Realistic as well as experienced, and somebody who knows her way around the high street, as opposed to most of these MPs who couldn't find the high street if you gave them a map. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:40. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock when Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here. Elizabeth says, Mike, could you tell us if the unions approve of the India deal? I don't know the answer to that, but I wouldn't have thought so. A trade deal that allows free movement and no tax, winter fuel payments cut, farmers punished, solar panels and wind turbines everywhere. Welcome to the UK, says Don in Chelmsford. Absolutely unbelievable stuff, isn't it? We've got so much stuff coming into us today. Phil from Hart says, I don't think Johnson will come back because the British people have just had enough of liars. It's that simple. Well, we'll see. So many subjects to talk about this morning. Brendan O'Neill is here, Chief Political Writer at Spike. Brendan, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike.
The world, I think, may be changing for the better, despite the best efforts of our own government and various other governments around parts of the world. We just had the new Reform MP in for the duration of the first part of the hour, Sarah Pochin. And what a refreshing woman she is, and how normal she sounds. And, I think the fact that the government have now lost the plot because they don't seem to even understand what ordinary people in this country think, I think it's a massive step in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. Let's be honest. She sounds, as you say, like a normal politician, which is very unusual these days. Most of them sound like weirdos and robots and people who don't understand the public, like Lucy Powell saying that crazy thing on Any Questions. And here we have a normal person who seems to be able to connect with working class voters. And the fact that
I think the fact is that that's exactly what ordinary people want. They want to be represented by people like them. I mean, we hear this all the time from the left, don't we? Oh, you need a police officer to come who looks like you when you want to talk to the police. You need to have a fire person to come, a member of the fire brigade to look like you. When you go to hospital, you need to have people that look like you and who are like you in order to treat you. Well, why can't we have politicians based upon the same principle?
Well, exactly right. Politicians who come from those kinds of communities, or at least understand those communities, that's what we need. Let's be honest about what happened with the local elections. This was a working class revolt. It was a massive pushback by ordinary people against the two-party system, against the establishment, against Labour and against the Conservatives. It was a real expression of a desire for something different, for a new kind of politics that connects with ordinary people. I think it was as important as the vote for Brexit in terms of what it said to the political party.
I think absolutely right. And I mean, let's go back to the summer of last year when Keir Starmer had only just been in power for about a month. And we saw absolutely very quickly how sort of ridiculously kind of authoritarian that government became over Southport. We've now got a review out from the police saying that basically they did not keep up with the risks posed to the public by social media. I was talking to Richard Tice earlier today, and the government still doesn't get it. He was asking questions about these Iranian terrorists that have been arrested and whether or not we could find out what their immigration status is. And the Home Office Minister, Jarvis, basically said, no, we can't reveal that because it might be prejudicial to a police inquiry. You and I both know you can't be prejudicial to a police inquiry. It's not a legal event.
It's insane the way these politicians talk about the public and controversial issues or explosive issues. It's so paternalistic. It's so patronizing. Basically, they just don't want us to know the truth about the problems that this country faces. This is the reason they hid the grooming gang scandal for so long. This is the reason they discourage us from talking about radical Islam or Islamist terrorism. They always say, don't look back in anger. Don't worry about it. Move on with your life. And it's probably why they don't want us asking questions about these Iranians who were arrested. They want to keep sensitive information away from us because they don't trust us. They see us as thick idiots who are just one tweet away from turning into a violent mob. That really is how they view ordinary working class people. And that's what's come out of the Southport stuff as well. The lesson they've taken from this is not that we've got to keep an eye on crazy people who might carry out horrific crimes, but the lesson they've taken is we've got to keep an eye on the public because they're so volatile and stupid. They might believe everything they read online. They constantly take the wrong lesson from every event that happens.
Right. And they've also moved away from what Keir Starmer said when he called everybody who took part in the Southport disorder as far-right thugs. sort of, intimating that they were all being coordinated on social media by, banning people from arriving on buses and all the rest of it. The police inspector has said that the evidence of the disorder was not coordinated by extremist groups, but it was mostly incited by disaffected individuals, influencers or groups online. So it was not, in fact, what it was described as by Keir Starmer. It was largely brought to bear by people who were upset about social deprivation, austerity, an economic downturn and distrust over migration. Well, I don't wish to kind of give sympathy to those who wanted to fight the police, but you have to have some, I would think, compassion for people who felt strongly enough to do that because of what had happened.
This report is so interesting. It really shatters the myth around these riots that took hold last year when they were happening. From Keir Starmer, from the left, from the liberal media, we were told that they were organised by far-right fascist groups. Do you remember we were told that Tommy Robinson was puppeteering them from some lounger in Greece or somewhere? Right. That this was apparently a fascist outburst, well organised. It was a pogrom. That was complete nonsense. I think the riots were outrageous. I don't think there's ever an excuse to attack the cops or to destroy local property, etc. But this was not a fascist uprising. This was an outburst of fury, disparate anger about social deprivation, austerity, immigration. And the police have now said it doesn't look like these were well organised or particularly ideological. No. It was an outburst of really ticked off people. And the government has a responsibility not only to punish those who cause serious damage, but also to look at the causes of disturbances like this. Why are people so angry and what is the government going to do about it?
Exactly. And they still don't get that, do they? That's the problem. They don't understand how ordinary people feel. We saw it with Lucy Powell and her disgraceful comments over the weekend on any questions about, the victims of the rape gangs up in the north of England. She doesn't want to know. She thinks it's a dog whistle. She thinks anyone who really wants to talk about it is actually a racist and a bigot. And that is, but overall, it would seem, the Labour government view.
That is totally the Labour government view. Everyone said that. Some people are saying it was a gaffe and she put her foot in it. No, she didn't. This was a rare case of a politician speaking honestly, because that's what they all think. They think the rape gang scandal is a pain in the neck. They'd rather not talk about it. They think if you do talk about it, you're probably racist. You're probably Islamophobic. That's actually what they think. She was speaking the truth for once. And, the fact is, this is the worst thing a Labour minister has said since Gordon Brown referred to Gillian Duffy as a bigoted woman. And in fact, it's worse than that, because Gordon Brown just heaped derision on one working class woman. Lucy Powell has scoffed at thousands of working class women who were abused and raped over a number of years. It's absolutely demeaning and disgusting, but it's entirely representative of what Labour thinks.
It really is. Unbelievable stuff. And it's also indicative of how they think in this kind of group way, isn't it? Because you can see, for example, that as much as Keir Starmer moans on about how he's changed the Labour Party and it's not anti-Semitic anymore, he's clearly wrong about that. There's clearly huge portions of it which are anti-Semitic, and there's clearly huge portions of it which are very, shall we say, trans activist in nature. And so two of the biggest issues socially and sort of, legally in this country, one, the issue of trans women and the Supreme Court ruling and single-sex spaces being protected by law, and secondly, the terrible and awful degradation of Jewish people in this country, which goes on a daily basis, by the way, is clearly and utterly supported by an awful lot of people in the Labour Party.
Oh, yeah, unquestionably. They are on the wrong side of both of those incredibly important issues. And, what another story doing the rounds at the moment is that Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead and Dudu Tassa, an Israeli Jewish musician, their two concerts in England have been cancelled under pressure from left-wing activists. These are the same left-wing activists who defended Kneecap's right to freedom of speech after Kneecap said up Hamas and up Hezbollah, which, by the way, are neo-fascist movements founded with the express intention of killing Jewish people. So we now have a left in this country that will defend your freedom if you praise Jew killers, but will try to cancel you if you dare to perform with the Jewish person from Israel. I mean, we can call that double standards. We can call that hypocrisy. It's actually anti-Semitism. If you are depriving the freedom to speak and perform to Jews from Israel, then I've got news for you. You're a racist.
Yeah. And Kneecap also, let's not forget, didn't leave it at that. They've also urged people to kill their MP. They're now being investigated by the police, but what's the betting that the police will find no particular cause to bring any charges against them or take any further action, because they're on the right side of the police's, what you might call Maginot line?
Yeah, because they're woke, they're left, they're kind of supposedly rebels, but actually they think the same as the whole cultural establishment. But the real reason I think it is, Mike, is because of their audience.
Yeah.
Kneecap's audience, when they play in the UK in particular, we know who their audience is. They're middle-class kids. They're people who went to university. They're people who read Novara media. They're respectable middle-class types. Whereas what the government is worried about is working-class oiks, or the gammon, as they refer to them. It's those people who have to be protected from dangerous comments online. It's those people who get led astray, apparently, by bad tweets. There's a class differential here as well, and I'm sure that Kneecap will be let off the hook for precisely those reasons.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Brendan, great to see you, great to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. Brendan O'Neill, Chief Political Writer at Spiked. Callie says this: all NHS trusts have an overseas team, and we do charge patients. Some pay, some don't, but we capture everyone who is not entitled. I believe that, Caroline, that is not actually true, because there's an awful lot of people who come here from foreign countries and have all sorts of operations done on them, never pay a penny. Apparently, I'm told that in this deal with India, the companies who are going to hire these individuals to come and work here will pay a surcharge ahead of time, so they will be able to access the NHS, and they will have paid something like £1,000 in advance to do so. That will all be paid up by the people who actually hire them to come and work in Britain. But nevertheless, even if they are paying, they will contribute to a further prolonging of whatever it is you're waiting to have done on the NHS, because there'll be more people accessing the NHS. Simple as that. All well and good if they do pay, but the fact is, it's already creaking under the numbers of people we've got already. It's 8:51. Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week, the one show where you do not have to be worried about judgmental people, because we'll do all the judging for you. Let's just have a look at how Humsey Useless is now spending his time.
There goes your career, mate.
Over there a bit is over towards where all the migrants come in. He's jumping there. There he goes. He goes over the bar.
Hello,
and
lady.
unfortunately, it catches on his Johnson.
If he's plank of the week, he's got a sizable plank.
That's a whole different show.
Plank of the Week, Fridays at 7 on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. Let's get a voice note from Ken on Reform.
Good morning, Mike. Ken here. I've just signed up to the official Sarah Pochin fan club. Very impressive lady. One of the barbs that that Labour and the Tories like to fire at Reform is a lack of experience. Well, the thing about Reform MPs and members of Reform is they have experience of life and business, and that is worth more than a degree in career politics any day in my book. Cheers, Mike. Great show, as it always is.
Ken, absolutely right. A very impressive woman, Sarah was. I can't tell you how impressive she was and how much good I think she's going to do, not just for this country, but also for Reform itself, to have a woman as part of that, because there was definitely a kind of Reservoir Dogs feel, wasn't there, about those sort of 5 MPs. Now only 4 men walking around. Now they've got a woman who could walk in front of them. I think that's going to be a great thing. And I'm not even going to do that Keir Starmer, and young women and girls will look up to her and see she's a woman. It's amazing. No, we're not going to do that. How about this from Joanna in Salisbury? Mike, I predict a union meltdown over India. It undermines the British worker and especially the unions. Any company can hire a worker through an Indian agency based in the UK, undercutting UK pay and reducing costs in business. Morning, Mike, says Dave in South Gloucestershire. That swampland you have in Florida, I know a gullible person who will buy it. He lives in Downing Street and anyone can sell him anything. Well, that's certainly what seems to have happened over India. Unfortunately, for those of us who would like to have seen a U-turn, though, from Keir Starmer on the removal of the pensioners' winter fuel allowance, he hasn't yet done that. Chris Brooks is here, Head of Policy at Age UK. Chris, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. I seem to remember, I don't remember if it was actually you, but I spoke to somebody from Age UK at the time the winter fuel benefit was going to be withdrawn when the announcement came. And Age UK were quite strong on the fact that, you know, it could have been done differently. It could have been done less dramatically with less kind of, you know, terrible outcomes for so many pensioners. And it could have also been put off for a year. But they didn't do any of that. They had a chance this week to reverse it when they realised that actually it cost them a seat in the by-election in Runcorn. But they've stubbornly decided to go on ahead.
Yeah, that's right. So unfortunately, there are rumblings that they're reconsidering, but
they denied that though yesterday, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, who knows what's going on behind closed doors? But obviously, it's a big political issue. Yeah. They're hearing all the time on the doorstep that it's one of the decisions they've taken that's really resonated with the public, and so I think they definitely regret how it was handled. However, yeah, you're absolutely right. They could have done things differently. I think that one of the biggest problems was taking the decision just ahead of the winter and taking the money away from a lot of pensioners who were banking on receiving the payment,
right.
Which obviously has led to a lot of people losing the confidence in having the ability to turn their heating on. And a lot of people we've heard from who've been living in cold homes over the winter when they perhaps didn't need to. And our cost of living polling that we do each year has found that things were slightly worse than they were last year. Right. So the number of people who were living in cold homes all or most of the time had gone up a little bit.
Right. And that must affect the health of some of our elderly people in this country.
Yeah, there are knock-on implications for health. It's really important that people live in warm homes. It makes a huge difference to their overall well-being as well as their health. And so for a lot of people, it's about having the confidence to turn the heating on. And so if they know the money's coming in and they're sure that they've got something earmarked for heating, then they have the confidence to turn their heating on and live in a warmer home. And if they don't do that, then it can have really dire consequences. And then in the end, that has a knock-on impact on the NHS, as well as people's day-to-day lives and in communities up and down the country.
Yeah, I mean, have you got any hope that if the government is in any way going to turn around on this, they will do it before the winter comes?
Well, we still think they should be looking very carefully at what kind of support needs to be in place to help people who really rely on that extra support. It doesn't necessarily need to be a complete U-turn on the decision. What we think they should do is look at the Warm Homes Discount, which is an existing mechanism that gives £150 payment to people on pension credit and other people as well who are eligible. and probably by increasing that and making sure that that reaches those who really need it, that would be a good mechanism. And that's currently being reformed at the moment. So that's what we're telling the government to do. And they should look at reinstating the winter fuel payment too, which is, as you say, it's what we've been saying all along, that at the very least they should do is allow people claiming other benefits to receive it. So people on housing benefit as well, which is a means-tested benefit. And as well as that, people with disabilities who are claiming attendance allowance and PIP as well. So they often have extra high costs because of their disability. They're put in a really difficult position where they can't afford to turn their heating on, and that has potentially even more severe knock-on implications for their health than it does for other people.
Indeed. Chris, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Chris Brooks, Head of Policy at Age UK. One from Peter in Norwich. He says, I'm not angry at Labour over the Indian trade deal. I'm incensed. Will nobody stop this madness of deliberately destroying our country? A very good point. Morning, Mike, says Jim in Dorset. There isn't a snowball's chance in a hot place I would ever vote for Boris Johnson again. He was a huge disappointment with his green agenda and wokey, cokey attitude. Interesting. And one here from Vicky. She says, in Bournemouth, morning, Mike, Starmer can't be consistently this incompetent. It's just not possible. I think we need to face up to the fact that it is deliberate. Well, that would be even worse, wouldn't it? If he's deliberately harming his own country, surely that's treasonous, isn't it? Coming up, Matt Vickers is going to join us, Joanna Bell as well. This is Morning Glory. We'll be back after this.
How much, ladies and gentlemen, are fish and chips where you come from? We'll go to Jason in Crewe.
Jason from Crewe. Fish, chips and peas, £7.50. It's the best chippy in England.
Janice in Leeds, go.
Regarding fish and chips in Leeds, it's between £9.50 and £12.75.
Whitby, how much is fish and chips?
3 of us, fish, chips, peas, I think one of us curry sauce, 3 cans of pop, just short of 70 quid.
£70? That's 23 quid a head, man. Even my maths does that. Very quickly, a voice note. Campbell in Scotland, go.
Up here in Banff in the northeast of Scotland, we can get a fillet and a half of haddock with a regular chips for £8 and 10 pence, and it's by far and away one of the best chippies I've ever had.
Kenneth in Surrey, fish and chips, go.
Fish and chips in Ascot, about half a mile from where you used to live, will cost you £12 and 60 pence. Great show. Keep up the good work.
That's why I moved, because you were living there. When was the last time you had fish and chips?
Couple of weeks ago.
How much? Where'd you get it from?
I think it was about 40 quid. It was in the Ivy.
Honestly, you really are. For any of you who think he's a man of the people, I nearly said you're a...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, and of course this is the home of common sense. It's coming up to 9 minutes. I'm here for another hour. Julie Hartley-Brewer will be along just before 10 to tell us what's coming up on her show. Mike, Keir's Indian deal benefits only includes the positives and ignores the negatives of existing British companies going bust because British companies have to pay tax and can't compete. Keir's selling out British people once again. Well, that's exactly what's going on. We've been talking about that an awful lot this morning, and an awful lot of you getting pretty wound up about it. Why on earth should it be possible for Indian workers to come to this country and get a better deal to work here than English workers, British workers? It's just seems completely and utterly antediluvian, doesn't it? I mean, what is going wrong in Keir Starmer's head? This is a man who only the other day said that the world is no longer reliant on globalism. It's the end of globalism. We're going to build up all the infrastructure in Britain that we can. We're going to take over British Steel. We're going to nationalise it. We're going to give all sorts of money to various green companies in order to kickstart the green industrial revolution. We're going to build wind turbines. We're going to build solar panels. We're going to put solar panels all over the place. We're going to have all sorts of burgeoning businesses in Britain doing incredibly well and building the economy and creating growth. Well, I'm sorry, if you said that yesterday and then today you said we're going to give a load of money to another country so they can bring a load of foreign workers in to undercut the price of other English and British workers, then I'd have to say you are a bleeding hypocrite, or at the very least an economist with no brains whatsoever. 0344 499 1000. West Streeting's got more trouble coming down the pike, of course, as well. We haven't talked that much about the NHS, but it looks like the junior doctors want to have yet another strike. The Conservatives want apparently to get Boris Johnson back. That's according to some people who are worried about Kemi Badenoch and the fact that she's making literally no progress whatsoever in getting anyone to believe what she says. A new poll that's out this morning from Sky News says, it's a YouGov poll rather, it puts the Tories 12 points behind Reform, who are on 29%, Labour on 22%, the Conservatives on 17%. We'll see what Matt Vickers has to say for himself about that, because this, of course, is the place to hear common sense. It's the place to know where you get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We're also going to ask you about tartar sauce. Apparently, it's been rebranded because a lot of people didn't know what it was. What's going on? How can you not know what tartar sauce is? And also, can you drive a train at the age of 18? That's what the government says you can do. Some people think that might be a little bit early. 0344 499 1000 is the number. 6 minutes past 9. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. More and more people, of course, polled in The Sun this morning believe that actually Britain is indeed broken. And that the biggest problem we've got is immigration. And we know that for sure. I got a piece in the Telegraph just out today. You can find it on all sorts of social media about the housing issue and how there's a ticking time bomb about to go off in our rental sector, because not only do we have the rules changing for landlords and Angela Rayner's new sort of, tenant-friendly rules coming in, which is going to probably limit the number of properties which are going to be made available to people who are trying to rent because they can't afford to buy. But now we're going to get a load of migrants moving in to properties because the government is looking for you as a landlord to donate your premises, not donate obviously, but to do so to make even more money than you currently do. So a lot of people getting evicted out of their flats, out of their houses, because these landlords, unscrupulous though they may be, are going to rent their places to migrants because they'll pay a lot more money, they'll guarantee them 5 years rent, they'll guarantee that all the fixtures and fittings will be sorted out, any repairs that need doing will be done, and they'll even give you free property management for the same price as well. Absolutely extraordinary. One other story that we're going to talk about later on in the show, an exclusive in The Sun by Rob Pattinson. Maddie, the unseen evidence is what it says on the front page. Basically, bombshell evidence found at the lair of Madeline McCann suspect Christian Bruckner is revealed for the first time today. It's going to be broadcast in a documentary tonight at 9 p.m. on Channel 4, and it's laid bare the haul found in a German police search. They include things like memory cards containing child kidnap stories, plus kids' clothes, toys and guns. It's a shocking story, but it's a brilliant investigation. We'll bring you more on that as we go through the course of this hour. Let's talk to Joanna Bell, though, political journalist, because the big story of the day, Joanna, very good morning to you.
Morning.
Is, of course, what on earth is going through Keir Starmer's mind? He says he wants to help working people. He's now decided that he wants to help the working people of India rather than the working people of Britain.
Well, I probably am the only one who's vaguely positive about this new step, because it's great. He's keeping the heritage industries alive, okay?
Is he?
Well, I mean, it's going to keep the car manufacturers going, right? They're beleaguered as it stands. And, BlackRock is investing billions into the growth of the UK. So we're going to need, where are the workers going to come from?
Well, there's 9 million people here who don't really do anything. So, I mean, the workers could come from here.
Are they skilled workers? India has a lot of a skilled workforce, and if BlackRock are investing billions into the country, it's they're betting that the UK is going to grow and grow and grow because it can't get any lower.
Yes, but the trouble is the reason we are in the terrible state that we're in economically, where there hasn't really been very much growth in the economy for about the best part of the last 15 years, is because of the outsourcing of all the work. And so if you bring foreign workers in to do the work and the people at home sit around on benefits, that does not give you a recipe for growth, because the money eventually drains out of the economy and goes to another country, doesn't it?
Well, you know, we'll see, because, you know, at the end of the day, Mike, you need to speculate to accumulate. I think here there might be method to his madness. And I know that's not the popular opinion right now, but you've got to have a little bit of faith that he is trying to create jobs and trying to keep the heritage industries alive. You know, and also, if Britain is growing, they're putting billions into new infrastructure. We're going to need those workers because we don't have the European workers anymore. So where's the workforce going to come from? We don't have enough people to work.
Yeah, but
in this
as I
country.
said, you know, the whole point about the refitting and the resetting of Great Britain is that you can't continue on the same path that has led you to where we are now. And what you're suggesting is that's exactly what we should do, is that we could carry on hiring people from outside the country, work for, they'll be working, by the way, not for British companies, but for Indian companies. So all the profit will be made by the Indian companies. People are very angry about the fact that these companies will not pay national insurance for the first 3 years and possibly for further periods after that. And neither will the workers pay national insurance. So it means that they're coming in to undercut the workforce here, which does exist, for example. I mean, you know, what, for example, will they do if they find that an Indian company wants to invest in British steel, right? Because they said they're looking for partners who are not in China. Say an Indian company comes in for British steel, and all those British steel workers can suddenly be kicked out and replaced by Indian workers because they're cheaper.
Well, you know, hopefully it won't come to that, Mike. I mean,
Well, hope is a wonderful thing, but it's not really something you can hang your hat on.
He has to do something. I mean, you've got Trump's tariffs. He's got to, you know, keep these heritage companies alive. And, you know, it might be unpopular, but, you know, there's got to be a way to create more growth in the country, and this is what he is has you know, he's doing a deal, and I think it's a good deal to, you know, have trade. That's what made Britain great in the first place, was trade.
Yeah, but which companies are going to benefit from this particular trade deal then?
Well, Jaguar Land Rover.
Well, they're owned by an Indian company, right?
Yeah, but they're here, right? They're manufactured here.
Yeah, they are. Well, some of them are.
Right, so that's going to be good for Britain to keep them here in this country, because we can't sell or outsource any more of our companies to different countries.
Well, if you work for Jaguar Land Rover, then there's a pretty good chance you're going to be replaced by an Indian worker who costs a lot less money, right?
Well, I don't think it'll come to that, because, you know, at the end of the day, they're not actually getting jobs in Land Rover. They're probably going to be specifically in the technology sector. You know, they're not going to be working in McDonald's. These are going to be highly skilled workers.
They're working. Well, they're going to be working in Indian companies, and if, like, Jaguar Land Rover is an Indian company, effectively, that's where they're going to go, surely.
Well, you know, it remains to be seen. Hopefully, the jobs of the people there will be protected.
The Indians seem to think this is the greatest deal they've ever done with any country ever.
Well, it remains to be seen. I mean, look, Keir's over in the European Union with his, you know, with his hands out begging. Apparently, the rumour is that he's trying to negotiate a deal where the free movement of students in Europe and Britain, apparently that's the next big thing coming in. He's definitely going to win the next election if that comes to fruition.
No, he won't. No, he won't. Absolute rubbish. Nobody wants people to come into this country and take jobs away. They really don't. People want to have jobs in this country, and the ones who don't want to work need to be forced to work, basically, because otherwise the drain on the benefit system is going to be so huge that we won't be able to afford it.
That's it. But if the country is growing and there is going to be more companies cropping up here, then there'll be too much work for people. So we're going to need those people.
Well, that's not happening, is it?
Well, it is. You know, they're saying that this guy from Larry Fink, for the CEO of BlackRock, is confident that the UK is going up. He said it's reached the...
Well, he must have woken up from a dream then, because nobody else in the entire world thinks that the economy is growing. The IMF have actually downgraded the growth for Britain in the last month alone.
Well, he said that he has more faith in the growth of the UK and Europe than he did a year ago when Rishi Sunak was the Prime Minister.
Well, he may well say that, but I mean, I wouldn't believe anybody from BlackRock if you paid me £1 million to take their opinions on board. You know, BlackRock are one of these companies that go around the world investing in businesses without really having any responsibility whatsoever for what happens next. You know, they're a globalist organisation. What we need in this country is proper growth, which is coming from the grassroots, where people can start companies in this country, not be absolutely hammered by taxes and national insurance contributions, and can actually benefit from the growth that they then see. But this government isn't about that. This government is about taxing business. It is about charging more money to business to operate. There are more businesses shutting down in this country now than there have been in the past 10 years.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of bad things, but I'm holding out hope that there's a little bit of method to Keir's madness right now, because, you know, you have to have hope, Mike, right?
Yeah, I hope that Keir Starmer isn't the Prime Minister very soon. I hope that he will soon be dispatched by his own party.
Or who do you think the biggest threat to Keir Starmer is right now? Because it's certainly not reform.
I think he's the biggest threat to Keir Starmer, because he's so useless that with every time decision that he makes, he gets worse and worse and worse. And reform will definitely, I mean, you saw what happened on Thursday. If that result was replicated in a national general election, the Tories would have 7 seats, Labour would have about 25. And that's
and how many would Reform have?
Over 400.
Oh, well, I mean, they have what is it? They've got, 400 seats in the, or no, sorry.
They would have, if the extrapolation from what happened last Thursday was a general election, they would have over 400 seats, yes.
Yeah, I really don't think that Reform, the biggest threat to Labour is not Reform. I mean, they're a big threat to the Conservatives. What Keir has a great opportunity now to divide the right.
No,
so
you're wrong about that. You're wrong about that, because Reform have taken votes from the Labour Party as well. They've taken votes from everybody, because people are sick to death of a two-party system that doesn't do for them anything at all. And what they want now is some complete change and a new party which will actually listen to the ordinary people of this country and be the ordinary people. We just had Sarah in here from Reform, Sarah Pochin, who's the new Reform MP for Runcorn, right? They won that seat, which was a 14,000 majority Labour seat. That's a 14,000 vote swing. It's huge, absolutely huge. And people love her. People say she's an ordinary woman. She's worked as a magistrate. She's not with a highfalutin idea. She's not some kind of apparatchik that came through, you know, university and then went into politics. She's an ordinary, proper individual that people can have faith in. And that's the kind of person that will win the next general election.
Right, but to put it, you know, the Green Party have more council seats than they do. So do the Lib Dems. How are the Reform? Like, it's a mathematical.
The Lib Dems have been around. Lib Dems have been around for years, right? And they've never ever been anything other than a third party. This is a revolution. You've got to get with the programme, Joanna. I'm going to have to indoctrinate you. I'm going to have to indoctrinate you. I'm not having it. We'll talk to you again soon, Joanna Bell. Thank you very much indeed. Let's get a voice note. Is it from Richard, or is that one? Yeah, it's a new one. Go on.
Morning, Mark. Richard and Corby. That won't happen with Boris Johnson. Where they're going to find a safe enough seat to get him in? They've got the Lib Dems in the south and the west, and in Reform in the north, west and northeast. And there's nowhere to find. In the Midlands, it'd be Reform. So if anyone stood down for Boris, they're going to be again by Reform or the Lib Dems.
It's a good point. There's barely any safe Conservative seats if you extrapolate that result from last Thursday. Let's talk to Matt Vickers, Shadow Minister for Immigration, Crime, Policing and Fire. I didn't realise that they've added immigration to you, Matt. Very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Mike. All the jobs, all the jobs.
All the jobs. I mean, can you imagine if there was a situation in the next general election where you were looking down the barrel of a gun and saying, there really aren't any safe Conservative seats, because the extrapolation of what happened last Thursday to Labour and the Conservatives would be that the Conservatives would end up with about 7 seats.
Yeah, well, it was a terrible night, actually, but you know what? We knew it wasn't going to be easy. It's a year ago, well, not even a year ago, actually, since that general election. We were sent a message by the electorate. We've took that message. We're listening to what they've got to say, and we're coming up with a new offer. Kemi's out there listening, all ears. Actually, a really sad night last week as we lost lots of councillors, very much not through their own fault. Very hard-working councillors, many of them, who contributed greatly to their local communities.
Indeed, and it's always sad when people lose elections, but there's a reason why they lost, and it's because Reform are on the rise. And we've just interviewed Sarah Pochin, as I say, the latest addition to the Reform MPs group, and she comes across as a very straight-talking, very well experienced as a magistrate, professional woman, who should scare the bejesus out of the Tory party.
Well, we'll see what she's all about, but we're in there taking the fight to Labour, debating the issues of the day, coming up with what our policy platform looks like. And today we've made the big announcement about our new deportation bill that I'm sure you're going to ask me about.
I haven't heard about it, but you better tell me, because it's a big announcement, but nobody said anything.
Oh, well, I'll tell you all about it then.
Tell me what it's about.
So we brought forward our own deportation bill today to apply a bit of common sense and fix this immigration system. As you know, Kemi said that immigration was way too high. Previous governments got it wrong. She's the leader now. I'm the immigration minister, shadow immigration minister now. We've got a new offering. That's about deporting people who come here illegally. It's about anybody who commits a crime in this country being deported, not waiting for them to be sentenced to 12 months, but just by virtue of committing a crime. If you come to our country, you break the law, you commit a crime, we're going to send you back. And then we're going to disapply the Human Rights Act so that all those cases, you know, Chicken Nugget Gate, this ridiculous case of a bloke who couldn't be deported because his kids don't like foreign chicken nuggets, or the paedophile who couldn't be deported because he thought he'd face hostility in his own country. We're saying in the courts now we will disapply the Human Rights Act from any cases that relate to deportation or immigration, so that the law of immigration in this land is governed by the people it's meant to be governed by, the people who the British electorate send to Parliament to make those laws, rather than judges doing their own creative interpretations of things and getting things stuck and wrangling and having the wrong outcomes in ever-increasing numbers.
And are you going to deport people who commit any kind of crime, or is there going to be a border sort of deal for that? Because up until now, for example, you can only be deported for a crime if the sentence that you receive is for more than a 1 or 2 year custodial.
Yeah, so that's entirely right. So a year, you have to be sentenced to more than a year in terms of custodial sentence. We're saying no. Any crime, if you come to this country, it is a privilege, not a right. There should be consequences if you come here and break our laws and commit crimes. We had an amendment in there to the Border Security Bill to do just that, and we saw Labour MPs vote against it. So we're bringing forward a bill with all these common sense solutions, actually, the sort of solutions the British people want. We're bringing forward that bill, and we're putting it to the test.
Isn't it also true, though, that anybody who comes here illegally is already illegal as soon as they set foot on the shores of Britain? So as soon as they land at Dover illegally, then they are criminals, aren't they? So shouldn't you deport them straight away?
Well, well, that's what we said. Yeah, we've said that if you come here illegally, if you break into this... Can you imagine if you or I rocked up in some other country without a passport? We'd be in serious trouble. The chance that it's not a choice that these people should be allowed to come here, break into the country and stay. We're saying detain them and remove them. We heard about the Rwanda scheme. All those people who were meant to go to Rwanda, where do you think they are now? They're in Redcar, they're in Romford, they're in Richmond, because they haven't been removed. Right. These people need sending.
So are you saying that
where that's not possible, we need a safe third country?
Are you saying you would immediately deport anyone who arrives illegally on the small boats there? Is that what you're saying? Is that a new change of policy?
Yeah, I'm saying we detain them and send them back to where they came from. And where those countries won't take it, we've got this India discussion going on this morning, where those countries won't take it, we should say to those countries, we are restricting your visas. If you will not take back your own offenders, then we will not allow you to send other people here on visas. There should be real consequences for countries that don't play ball with us. This is our country, we need to protect it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Donald Trump did, and it worked for America, so it should work for this country as well. But, I mean, a lot of people will say to you, Matt, of course, that you had 14 years to do this. I know you personally were not an immigration minister. Kemi may not have been the Home Secretary. But you served in that government and you were part of that government. I mean, you were, vice chair of the party, I think, for quite a lot of the time when one of the last governments was in charge. So why suddenly the road to Damascus conversion now?
Well, you've heard me rant about this for the last 4 or 5 years. You know where I stand on it personally. You're right. Do you know what? Kemi has said that previous governments got this wrong.
Yeah, but she was in previous governments.
Too high. Kemi was not the leader. She did not have that level of control. And I was not a minister in the last government. I did not have my hands on the control of these things. But you know how I feel about it. You've heard from me over the last few years. There is now a plan there. There is a bill coming forwards. And we're going to do whatever we can to secure the borders of this country.
And coming up, Prime Minister's Questions is going on. You mentioned the Indian situation. We've been talking about it a lot this morning. A lot of people feeling very strongly that this is a terrible betrayal of British workers by the Labour government and by Sir Keir Starmer and David Lammy and all the other people that have been involved, Jonathan Reynolds as well, the fake solicitor. What is Kemi going to say to Keir Starmer? Is she going to go after him this afternoon at midday on this Indian trade deal?
So first up, I've got a PMQ today, but I'm not giving the game away. I want to surprise him with my question, so I'm not going to tell him, and perhaps she shouldn't tell him either. But I think on this India trade deal, it is ridiculous. This deal was on the table for the last government. We didn't take it because it wasn't in Britain's interest. Whenever Labour negotiates, Britain lose. This is a bad deal for Britain. When you look at it, British taxpayers, British workers, paying national insurance at unprecedented levels, businesses struggling. Not only are businesses being taxed, charities, hospices are facing this jobs tax from Labour, really struggling. And then we're saying that all these tax contributions are going to allow Indian workers who come into this country a free ride, not paying that tax at all. It is wrong. It's wrong by taxpayers. It's completely wrong in terms of direction of this country.
Yeah. Matt, very good to talk to you. 25 minutes past 9. Thank you very much indeed. Matt Vickers, Shadow Minister now for Immigration, as well as Crime, Policing and Fire. Let's see what Kemi Badenoch comes up with today. She's going to have a bunch of questions to throw at Keir Starmer in PMQs. You'll hear all about that, of course, in Julia's show. Mike in Erith says, I worry that we're sending non-business people overseas to make deals with some of the most business-savvy country leaders. The carrot that is being dangled in front of Starmer is just an orange-painted parsnip, sending a boy to do a man's job. And Steve says, Matt Vickers says the Tories would deport illegals to where they come from. That's France, isn't it? And Malcolm in Hampshire, how is it possible for a Prime Minister not to understand that making an Indian business cheaper to run would not cause a massive backlash? Well, he's not really very savvy, is he? That's how stupid he is. He doesn't think it's going to cause a backlash, and when it does, he doesn't understand it. It's coming up to 25 minutes past 9. Next, we're going to talk about the great page 1 and 4 pages inside, Maddie, the unseen evidence. The Sun reporter Rob Pattinson is going to join us. It's all about new evidence that has been found by the German police inside the home of Christian Bruckner, the main suspect in the disappearance of Madeline McCann. We'll find out what it's all about. It's a Channel 4 documentary coming up tonight as well. This is Talk.
The other issues, you know, the visa crackdowns and all these other things, well, for local government, that's been having a real impact, actually, on the allocation of houses and resources. Because don't forget that as soon as you accept one of these, well, when one is forced upon you, that is, that actually you've got to pay for everything from translation costs to the education of the children. Yeah. So the cost to the taxpayer is always massive. Local elections really do matter, and I think people really understood that. Well,
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 29 minutes past 9. We're here with you for about another half an hour. Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here. Alan in Middlesbrough says, my body has 7 trillion nerves, and Keir Starmer and his bunch of Starmerettes are on every single one of them. Yeah, I know what you mean, Alan. We're all literally as annoyed as we can be. We've got a little change of tack now, though, because, delighted to say, Rob Patterson, senior reporter at The Sun, is here with us. The front page this morning, a real tour de force. Rob, welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Maddie, the unseen evidence, an incredible piece of journalism, full story, over 4 pages inside, pages 2, 3, 4 and 5, and it's all about the investigation into Christian Bruckner, the chief suspect in the Madeline McCann case. He's thought to have been the main suspect for quite a long time. This is all about a documentary that you've made as well. Tell us about the findings of your story, which has been researched for what, about a year, you were saying?
Yeah, we've been working on this for about a year, and I think we've always wondered, why do police suspect he is the man who kidnapped and murdered Madeline McCann?
Yeah.
And we've been able to access police files which give us many of these answers.
Right.
So we can show pictures of him at key Maddie locations.
Yeah.
We can place him at the scene of an alleged confession. We've got stories where he describes his wish to abduct small children.
Yeah. So he is clearly a man who certainly fits the profile of a dangerous paedophile who would possibly be capable of doing something like this.
I think what we've got here is a real insight into his psyche.
Yeah.
And it does raise questions over whether he's capable of doing something like this.
Right.
And it's for the audience to draw their own conclusions, but there is a lot of circumstantial evidence that points towards that.
There really is. I mean, he talks about and writes about a sort of fantasy of kidnapping a small child, a 5-year-old blonde girl, you know, an awful lot of what you might call clues as to what his desires are and what he would gain if in fact he did kidnap her.
Yeah, I think the links between these abhorrent stories and Madeline are clear to see. He talks about small children aged 3 or 4, blonde hair. He talks about using drugs to knock them out so they don't make any sound and piling them into a car. It's a deeply disturbing read, there's no doubt about that. And of course there's no direct link to Madeline, we can't prove that, but what this does show is what this man was thinking internally.
Yes.
What makes him tick.
Right. And he was accused of a previous crime, which he was acquitted of, I think, wasn't he?
So he is a convicted rapist.
Yeah.
And he is a convicted paedophile.
Yeah.
There's no doubt over that. But last year he went on trial for more paedophile crimes and for a string of rapes. And he was cleared of those, which I think came as a shock to a lot of people.
They did, yeah.
But we've actually uncovered evidence that should have been shown in court, that could perhaps have helped win a conviction.
Yeah.
And that's in today's paper, and it's in the documentary later as well.
OK, and the documentary's on Channel 4 tonight. First time you've been involved in making something like that?
Yes, it was. So this just started as a normal Sun story. We went off and we did our investigation, and all the information got taken into a news conference.
Yeah.
And the editor instantly said, look, I think this is worth more. I think we can get our own documentary out of this.
Yeah.
So we started making our own in-house documentary. And the purpose of that initially was to put it on Sun Club, part of our new premium content.
Yeah.
But it quickly became apparent it was such a powerful film. Other people might want to see it. So we approached Channel 4, and that's where it is tonight.
And that's where it is tonight, 9 p.m. Some of the things in one of the spreads you've got here are the things that were discovered in his house. A metal suitcase discovered during the police search in 2016 containing chilling photographs of young girls. Also a list of phone numbers at the abandoned factory. An address book was also found nearby. What sort of phone numbers and what kind of addresses were they?
So we don't know specifically what the addresses were, and we don't actually know specifically what the phone numbers were. But of course this raises the spectre that he was planning something with these small children.
Yeah.
And he is convicted of abusing girls as young as 5.
Right.
He's got a long history of that. So he has got form for doing things like this. So this again shows why police think he might be someone that's capable of doing such a thing.
And at the moment he's still walking around, presumably, is he?
No, he's in prison. He's in prison at the moment.
Yeah.
He's coming to the end of a 7-year sentence for rape, for which he was convicted in 2019.
But he will be released.
September the 17th.
Yeah.
He'll be free.
Right. Extraordinary. And you wonder how many of these kinds of people there are wandering the streets of Europe.
Yeah.
And wandering the streets of Britain as well.
I think we're a bit better at keeping tabs on them in Britain.
Yeah.
In Germany, it's clear they don't have the safety nets we have. They don't have a means to intervene and stop these dangerous people being released.
Yeah.
Their privacy laws prevent it.
Yeah, incredible. And Maddie's parents, of course, have been long-time campaigners for a continuation of the search for Madeline McCann to go on. We haven't really seen them much in the public eye of late. Have they reacted to this?
Well, I think they were seen out and about at a memorial on Saturday to mark the 18th anniversary of her disappearance. And I think it's important to point out the Met and the UK treat Madeline as a missing person case still.
Right.
It's the Germans who treat it as a murder case.
Yeah.
So we made them aware of the making of the documentary and of the findings of the investigation before. And they didn't provide a comment, but they were aware. And they're happy with any progress that's made. I think that's clear.
I mean, obviously, she would now be into her 20s, I suppose, now, if she is still alive.
Yeah, I think she'd be 21, 22. Yeah.
Which is, again, it's an extraordinary story, isn't it? It's occupied, of course, an awful lot of people's, psyches for a very, very long time. It's every parent's nightmare. It was one of those stories that you couldn't avoid. And it's just, it's always, until she's found, it's always going to be a story.
Yeah, I think it's the not knowing which fascinates people. And I think that's the value of our investigation in the paper today, and in what you'll see in the documentary is we're getting closer to an understanding than ever before.
Yeah.
We're getting a glimpse of what police know and what they're not sharing with us.
Yeah.
And I think that's all pointing in one direction.
And do you think, as a result, that they may go and speak to Bruckner again? Or
so they have
keep an eye
tried.
on him?
They've tried many times to speak to him. He refuses to answer police questions. He doesn't provide an alibi. He just doesn't say anything at all.
Right.
His lawyers say he didn't do it, but he refuses to speak. So in the UK, that would be a bad look.
Yeah.
That wouldn't go down well with the jury,
Right.
I'm pretty certain. But
Do you think if it was a British offender that he might well be charged with a crime and then taken through the process?
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but discussions I've had with lawyers suggest there would be a case to answer at the very least.
Right.
So the bar seems to be much higher in Germany, and I think that's one of the complications with getting him charged.
Yeah, and there's never really been any forensic evidence as such, has there?
No, so German police are clear. They have physical proof or physical evidence that she's dead.
Right.
But they don't have any forensic evidence. And from what I've learned, German courts are going to require forensic evidence to get a conviction, whereas other parts of the world have precedent for convictions without forensic evidence.
And what about the Portuguese police in all of this?
Well, I think...
Are they part of the documentary?
No, not at all. Not at all. They don't seem to have any involvement. I think they washed their hands of it a long time ago. I'm sure they cooperate with Operation Grange, which is the Met Department that continues to oversee the case. But they don't play any meaningful part.
They viewed it all as a bit of a nuisance to them, didn't they, in a way?
I think that's pretty clear. Their handling of it was bizarre, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's a fantastic exclusive, Rob. Thank you very much indeed for sharing it with us. Rob Patterson, senior reporter for The Sun. It's available, obviously, online as well. You can get your hands on the story. It's in The Sun, pages 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And tonight, Channel 4, 9 o'clock, is it?
9 o'clock. 9
o'clock, Channel 4, the documentary made by The Sun, produced, in fact, by Rob. So I think well worth a watch. Coming up to 9:37, we'll be back after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 9:39. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock, of course. Morning Glory, says Margaret in Birmingham. Today has been outstanding. Great guests, Richard, Esther, Sarah and Tony. If only the useless government would listen to the best breakfast show on the planet. Well, you know, if they did and actually listen to the people who contribute to it, like you, Margaret, it would be absolutely brilliant because they'd understand more about what it is that the people who run and live in this country actually want. Steve from Cambridge says, good morning, Mike. What a genuine person Sarah Pochin is. A great fit for reform, so different from the so-called MPs that we have in government. Absolutely right. And one here from Ains who says, morning, Mike. Even if Labour gave everyone a free house, they would still get wiped out in the next election. It feels like we're being governed by a hostile occupier. I think that's a very wise way of putting it. We're going to talk now, speaking of hostile occupiers in the government, to Simon Danchuk, former Labour MP, of course, and now member of Reform. Simon, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mac.
I have to say, and I have said this ever since Sarah was on, Sarah Pochin, what a breath of fresh air as an MP she's going to be, because she knows her stuff, she knows her own. She's a former magistrate, you know, unlike Keir Starmer, she's not pretending that she was, you know, the world's greatest prosecutor, but she knows a thing or two about the law, she knows a thing or two about the people of Runcorn as well, and I think that's what the people of Runcorn and the rest of the country are missing. I mean, we're going to talk about Lucy Powell and her ludicrous interjection over the weekend about, you know, the dog whistle that is anyone who talks about the Pakistani rape gangs. You know a thing or two about that. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, it's absolutely appalling what Lucy Powell has said. She's effectively said that anybody who raises concerns about the Pakistani rape gangs is racist. And now you have to, which is an appalling thing to say, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself why she is saying that. And there's no doubt about it. Starmer has said something very similar in months gone by. Nobody in Labour's directly condemned her for what she said. So you must conclude that it's Labour's view. But then you ask yourself, why are they saying it? Well, let me tell you, they're trying to close the debate down on the Pakistani rape gangs. And there are three reasons why they're trying to close the debate down on the Pakistani rape gangs. One is that a lot in Labour believe in multiculturalism and think we should celebrate everything about ethnic minorities and, you know, community cohesion is king, etc.
Yeah.
Secondly, they don't want to have an investigation into those who are culpable around the Pakistani rape gangs. So many people knew that this was going on. Many people failed to call it out and challenge it, and effectively facilitated the abuse. There's no doubt about that. And Labour don't want an investigation into that. So that's the second point. And then the third reason that they're trying to close this debate down is because they think they will lose votes.
Yeah.
They already lost votes at the general election in some key Asian communities, and they don't want to lose any more by having this debate take place. And that is absolutely appalling in British politics.
Yes, and you've spoken before, Simon, because you know a thing or two about the local areas in which some of these gangs operated, that you were sort of warned off in your days as a Labour MP, were you not, about speaking out about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was the MP from 2010 to 2017 in Rochdale when the Rochdale grooming gang story broke. And I have a proud record of having worked with many of the victims of the rape gangs, and I can stand on that record. But what I saw time and again is Labour politicians tell me not to mention the ethnicity of the perpetrators, not to mention their religion, and I ignored that, and I carried on calling it out because they are key factors in why these men rape these girls. There's no doubt about that. But Labour don't want that debate, and they're not prepared to stand up for the victims. But I would urge all your listeners, Mike, to carry on shouting about this, because politicians of all colours, and this isn't a party political issue, but politicians respond to pressure. So the more pressure we put this government on this issue, the better.
Yes.
It's not going away.
It really isn't. As much as they would like it to go away, it can't possibly go away. I mean, they say, even though they're very vague about it, that they're having these kind of regional inquiries, these local inquiries. So far, only one has been properly named in Oldham. So far, we're waiting to know where the others are going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. People in Oldham, I've lived in Rochdale for a long time. I was born in Burnley. I know Oldham very well. And if you speak to ordinary people in Oldham, the idea that Oldham Council should investigate itself around this very issue, they would laugh at you. I mean, it's ridiculous that local authorities who don't get any powers as part of these investigations to call witnesses or to hold anybody to account. Some of the people in some of the local authorities are culpable. The same applied in Rochdale. That became very clear when we investigated it. Some council officers had failed to blow the whistle on some of the abuse that was taking place.
Right.
So how can you have councils investigate themselves? That's an absolute nonsense, but it certainly fits Labour's agenda. They want to brush this under the carpet and move it on. And people have to ask why they want to do that.
Well, indeed. You also have to ask why, and this is the big story of the day today, that after having said they're going to clamp down on immigration, they're going to stop so many people coming into the country on work visas and student visas from places like Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Nigeria, they've now suddenly decided to open the floodgates to India, who they've done a trade deal with, which includes the possibility of many, many thousands of Indian workers coming to work in Britain, not just with the ability to do so legally, but with the ability to do so for less money and without paying national insurance than British workers.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
No.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Everybody is in uproar about the state of immigration in this country, especially legal immigration. And they're concerned about national insurance increases, particularly on employers, which is killing British jobs. And then what does the Labour government under Starmer do? Does a deal with India that allows more Indians to come into the country and ensures that they don't have to pay national insurance. And if you observe this, Mike, all these policies that they're coming out with, from the Chagos Islands through to this policy, through to others as well, were rejected by the Conservative government. We used to think the previous Conservative government wasn't very good, but Jeremy Hunt rejected the winter fuel allowance. James Cleverly rejected the Chagos Islands deal. Kemi Badenoch rejected this Indian trade deal for the reasons we're talking about. And yet we've got a Labour government that's accepting and implementing all these civil servant ideas. And they're absolute madness.
Yeah. It's absolutely right. Good to talk to you, Simon. Thanks very much indeed. Simon Danchuk there, former Labour MP and former defector, who's got plenty to say about Lucy Powell. He put out a tweet this week in which he said that she should be fired before the end of the week. Well, we're into Wednesday now and she still has her job because Keir Starmer can't fire her, and I'll tell you why. Because it turns out he said something very similar back in January. Sue says this, yet another knock to British people, more immigration, and those who come here now don't have to pay tax or insurance. Why don't they just ask British people to move out of their own country? Good point. Joe in Leicestershire says, morning, Mike, the India trade deal, where do you even start? Starmer might as well just come round your house with a van full of immigrants, drag you out and give them the keys. This man seems to dislike British nationals and will now forge on relentlessly to cause as much damage before they are ousted in 4 years. This may be the final nail in the coffin for Starmer and his cronies. And Phil in Coventry says, your question, how can this government be this useless? It's Labour. People of our age remember it's Labour useless. They're only in because the Tories were so bad. Reform all the way for me now. Let's get a voice note from Joe.
Morning, Mike. Great show. Just in regards to the foreign workers not paying NI, or more importantly, the businesses not paying NI, surely the reason we need foreign workers here is because there's a demand for them, or we wouldn't need them. So why would you incentivise business to take foreign workers on? Because surely they must need these foreign workers. That's the whole point of bringing them in, isn't it? Or am I going absolutely crazy?
No, you're not going absolutely crazy. You're being completely sane. It's the government that's gone absolutely crazy. They've gone mad. Mad for it. They've gone for immigration. Once again, telling us that they want to stop it on one hand, but on the other hand, absolutely waving loads and loads of people in. Just come on in. Come on. You know, what are you waiting for? You don't have to pay national insurance. We'll give you a free house. You can get a job. You know, you'll be laughing. And then after a while, you can bring your kids over, your mother, your sister. You can bring your wife. or several of them if you've got them. You know, just have a great time. Just bring it all in, bring it in, ship it in. We've got plenty of money, hard, broad shoulders. We've got, you know, just come and take all our money, and then when you've had enough of it, just leave and take it all away. Marvellous, isn't it? 9:49.
Hi, I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and I've got a message for you. Welcome back to this blockbuster edition of What Just Happened. It really is a good one, I think. It's so funny that people keep calling me Meghan Markle, because it's Meghan Sussex now.
Flynn has said, Samara, I agree with you all the time, but you're just boring.
Hi! I refuse to work for ITV ever again. What Just Happened? Fridays at 9 on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 9:52. That's 8 minutes to 10. Absolutely extraordinary where the time has gone. We thought we might have a quick check-in before we listen to Sarah Pochin, the new MP for Reform, on the Pope's chimney, for want of a better word. That's where the white smoke's going to emanate from if they make a new Pope decision anytime soon. Supposedly the conversations are underway. It might take a couple of days, it might take a couple of hours, it could be before the end of the week, nobody's very sure. But we'll keep checking back in with the puff of white smoke. If it starts to look white, I think it sometimes comes out black, doesn't it, which means they haven't decided. So, I don't know, we'll keep an eye on it. Anyway, I'm not sure if Ed Miliband's got a measuring stick over it to see how much it's polluting the planet. We shall see. Gary Thompson says Sarah Pochin is actually a woman whom young girls can look up and take notice of. What a breath of fresh air she is. Well, that's Gary and Paul Tree. We listened to what Sarah Pochin had to say. She was in the studio a little bit earlier today. Have a listen.
Worries us in Reform UK is that we've got 4.5 years left of this Labour government. What damage are they going to do? I mean, we clearly are on the move. We're on the march, and the country is ready for us. I've got no doubt about that.
No question.
This country is going turquoise. We've already seen that with the council elections and this historic win in Runcorn and Helsby. But the point is, how much time have we got to sort of save the country? And that sounds, I know that sounds so dramatic. It's so real.
It is.
And what's happened now with this Indian deal that Keir Starmer said, he's selling out British workers again.
Yes, and then ludicrously puts out a statement and puts out his little tweet every single day as he does, and doesn't mention the national insurance break.
Shocking.
As if we're not going to find out.
As though we're not going to notice.
Oh,
I know.
that's okay then. This is all brilliant. And it's like they live in this bubble where they think that this is what people want. You know, yes, we want to have cheaper goods. Yes, we want to be able to buy things that we can afford. But we don't want you to give away the farm
but you know what?
while we're doing it.
Mike, it's the houses they'll take.
Yeah.
It's the jobs jobs that obviously they'll take. British workers have been sold out because companies will set up. We know that companies will set up on
because we live in the real
ways.
world.
Absolutely.
Richard Tice said the same thing. It's a scammer's charter.
It
right?
is.
All you need to do is go down the road, rent an office above a post office, and say, "We've got a postal address. This is my new company. Happens to have a head office in India."
Yeah.
Away
But you know what? There's no limit on it. How frightening is that? There's no limit on numbers, and there's no limit on the time of this deal.
Yeah.
That is really frightening. So, you know, we've already got this problem of immigration. Where are we going to put all these people that are now going to come in?
Exactly. Now, how long did it take you to decide to do this? Because you said that, you know, obviously, you in some ways it's a risk. You know, it's a personal risk. You don't have to do it. You know, did you have any kind of misgivings about when you were first asked? I presume you were asked by Nigel Farage, would you be interested in running? Did you have any kind of misgivings about not running?
No.
None at all?
None at all. I was brought up in a very proud, patriotic household. My parents were, you know, always interested in politics, and they were working class people. You know, my dad was in the army, my mum ran a post office. But the patriotism, I suppose, I've just been brought up with. And I first met Nigel 10 years ago. I was a Tory councillor at the time, but you know, I followed him ever since, and I just felt I'd had a couple of years in the wilderness from politics, but then you know what? If it's in you, and you just feel so passionately about these issues, and I do so care about my constituents now, so want to do good by them, care about the national issues. So at whatever level, I'm happy to talk and feel very passionate about it. You can't not get involved, because the country needs people like me.
Yes, it really does. And in terms of the way that reform has kind of shifted from what many people, even just before that election on Thursday, were calling a protest party, it feels as though there's a Rubicon that's been crossed now, and that people, and I think this is true, and I don't know whether you can tell me whether it is, that people will now be prouder and less unwilling to actually admit that they're Reform voters, because, you know, they used to call them shy Tories, people wouldn't admit to being Tories. And I think Reform had that problem. But now, I think when they see people like you coming through, you know, they see, you know, a fantastic, you know, successful woman, you know, who's able to break through the glass ceiling of politics, because there still is one, I think, for a lot of women. And you're just an ordinary person, and I mean that as a compliment.
I am. I'm
honestly.
an ordinary person.
Yeah, but I mean it as a compliment. An ordinary person who can be as successful as you, who can win an election. I think people can hang their hats on that and go, this is what we need.
Absolutely. Do you know what? The people are proud. I've had text messages, endless WhatsApp messages from people that I didn't have any idea, who've never said that they followed politics, and suddenly they're saying, oh, well, we've always been Reform supporters. Like, well, why didn't you say so? But now I think...
Because they couldn't.
No, they couldn't, because, again, you're accused of being racist. But now I think, you know, let's be loud, let's be proud to be British, to have these values. We're not racist. We just want to make sure that this country is going to, you know, not be bankrupted, because that's what we're facing. We're facing bankruptcy by these crazy policies like Keir Starmer's now done with this Indian deal. You know, and you can say, oh, it's worth however many billion to the economy. What is it going to mean for people's lives in constituencies like mine? It's going to be really tough.
Exactly right. And also, every estimate they make of any financial gain that they're going to make seems to be so far off. If they're running a post office, they'll be out of business in a couple of days.
Exactly.
Final question for you. Can you give us a 100% guarantee that you're not going to punch any of your constituents?
Do you know what? I think you're okay on that one. I think you're okay.
Unless they really provoke it, Great to see you. Sarah, I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
I think we definitely need, it's like a breath of fresh air. A lot of people said to me on Friday, you know, we can, for the first time, we've got a smile on our face. We've woken up to this incredible victory.
Absolutely. Energy.
And people feel energised,
and
they feel
They've got
hopeful.
hope. They've got hope for the future.
Sarah Pochin, it's our first interview with Talk, I think, just an hour or so ago. And Julie Hartley-Brewer's here.
Yeah.
What a refreshing voice in politics.
And I do like that, Gary. I think it should be a bare minimum that MPs don't punch their constituents.
Yes, I think so.
I mean, is that too much to ask? I don't know.
It's not much to ask, is it? You know, I mean, even if you've been there a really long time.
Seems pretty sense. I hate all this, first woman. I don't care. I'm not interested.
No.
She seems like a pretty straight...
No, I think it's an important step for reform, though, because there was that kind of image of them all looking a bit like Reservoir Dogs. I know, more Reservoir Dogs than old men. They won't thank you for that. You know, it was all a bit, that slow-mo sort of walking, and it's like now there's a woman there. It looks a bit more kind of user-friendly. You know what I mean? But no, I think it's a lot of people. Certainly on Friday morning, an awful lot of people were saying for the first time we got a smile on our face. There's an alternative to this two-party system that's been driving us all mad.
Yep.
You know, and meanwhile Starmer still doesn't get it.
And I just like shaking it all up again. It's the Labour advisors and MPs say you need to tax people more.
Yeah.
And let's
bring in a load more Indians.
And go with your instincts. No,